Hello, 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 hello. How is everyone? Hopefully everyone's doing and having a wonderful evening. I normally don't stream this late, but I have to wait for my landlord and I have to pay rent because I work. And the One Piece chapter came out today. Normally I don't talk about the One Piece chapter unless it's via any of my regular streams. I just can't really talk about it in between. I don't usually dedicate an entire stream to it, but this is a doozy chapter for people and fans like me who, for the most part, enjoy talking about a very specific aspect of One Piece and just in general fiction, and that is shipping. Thus, this is called the shipping yard because we talk about shipping here, and by shipping, I do not mean like Amazon shipping, logistics of like FedEx or whatever, one of that boring subjects. No, what we talk about here is relationship shipping. But before we get into that, we can also talk about the other aspects of the chapter that were also very interesting. Just give me 1 second. I'm just trying to find. Is it a song? There we go. A nice, calming song. You know, something nice, calming, nothing too distracting. You know, classic. You ship Luffy and meat. Get out. Leave. I'm not having any of that nonsense here. Great chapter. I agree with you. We're going to talk about it first, mostly just the general whole chapter as a whole. Then we'll move on to the shipping aspect of it as we move on. But let's talk about the chapter as a whole. I'm not showing the full chapter because one, I might get fucking like assassinated by Shonen Jump or Viz Media. Two, the websites I usually read One Piece usually has some weird ads that I'm not risking myself on stream, so I'm not going to talk about that. I will definitely show some panels. And I guess the first panel I want to talk about, I mean, I guess this is really the only panel I can talk about that isn't shipping related. And that is the ending of the chapter, which was this. We got a full fucking reveal of the fucking Rocks Pirates. Well, kind of. This is like the second time we saw like a full reveal of the Rocks Pirates and stuff like that. But we got it with actual Rocks in the frame. This motherfucker right here is the captain of the Rocks Pirates, Rocks the Zebek, and he's fucking insane. He is fucking nuts. He farmed the holy hell out of the aura that you would think Roger have, right? But look at this fucking lineup. You know? We already knew most of his lineup, but like, holy fucking shit, look at his lineup. You have Rocks, Whitebeard, you have Shiki, Kaido, Big Mom, at the Catfish Merman, you had Big Mom's little Strusen, I think that's his name. We have Captain John's treasure that Buggy is looking for. You have other characters in here. Some of the characters, I believe this one, I think he and Big Mom got together and she gave birth to a child and he's the father, if I remember correctly. Like, the lineup that Rocks fucking had is fucking insane. You be like, how the fuck did Rocks lose to fucking Roger? Because then you see the other parts of the chapter about Roger and you're just like, how? How do you have Rocks steal all the aura? Now, there's a reason why. There's a reason why Rocks is stealing all the aura from Roger. And that is because this is about Loki. This is about Loki's flashback. And who did Loki idolize? It was Rocks. right? So the focus is essentially on rocks and just why Loki was so fascinated by him, why he wanted to join the Rocks Pirates, right? So Oda is essentially showcasing just how much of a fucking badass Rocks is. And we see what kind of badass Rocks is because he's the only motherfucker who managed to get to that flower room, that throne room, that fucking literally, no other person has ever gone to. Fucking, he went up to fucking Emu and was like, "What's up, bitch? You wanna go?" Apparently he did get his ass kicked, or like, for some reason he couldn't fight back. I don't know why. But he said he was gonna come back. Once he created his army, once he gets the devil fruit abilities and all that, and all the stuff that he needs, he's gonna come back, he's gonna fucking make Emu pay. Hello, Vegeta. Nice to see you. Hopefully you're having a wonderful Thursday. Right? And, like, holy fucking shit. He decided to start setting up this entire fucking pirate crew like a fucking madman. He just... The amount of aura that he has in just this fucking picture right here, just this frame, is fucking nuts. Like, holy fucking shit, you know? I wonder if Uta will be show up in Shanks' territory in the future. No, Uta is not going to show up in the manga. She is a movie character that Oda decided to give like one little fucking panel for. And then that's it. Uta is not coming back. I don't know why people think Uta is coming back. Like, it would be really weird for like Uta to just suddenly be back when she was introduced as a movie character, you know? Now, granted, Shiki, you know, is in the same boat, but I just don't see Uta coming back. Like, what reason for it? Shiki, at least, was a member of the Rocks Pirates. I don't know what Uta would actually benefit in the story. At least with Shiki, it's showcasing that he was in the Rocks Pirates, this massive fucking crew that literally dominated the entire fucking sea right next to Roger. Can Uta beat Akainu? Uta better not fucking confront Akainu, or he will put his fist in her body. I'm sorry. Akainu is just too OP. Shiki's also a movie character, yes, but he has relevancy in the story, aka being a member of the Rocks Pirates. What does Uta bring? What relevancy does Uta bring? She's Shank's daughter. She knows Luffy from their childhood. Okay, great, fantastic. That shit was covered in the movie. What other relevance would she have in the story of One Piece right now? I want you to think about that very carefully. What relevance does she have? She will likely have no relevance. The only relevance I could think that she has is that Blackbeard discovers that Uta is alive, that Uta is Shank's daughter, and he goes and kidnaps her just to get Shanks to use her as bait against Shanks. That's literally the only thing. And I'll be like, well, that's just fucking lame. Granted, it would be that sinister shit that Blackbeard would do, but like at the same time, it would be like so lame. You know? I guarantee you Blackbeard and Shanks are gonna clash. I really don't want it to be just because fucking Blackbeard baited the shit out of Shanks. I want it to be because they confronted each other over something else. You know? That's what I want it to be. Not that Blackbeard baited him. It's just so whack. And you're gonna have something very similar to that with the way Blackbeard kidnapped Pudding. You know? So it's like... doing it again, doing it 2 times, it's not something that Oda would necessarily, I think, do. You know, but I could be wrong. Anyway, so I like this final panel, not just because it shows a full-scale version of the Rocks Pirates, but he talks about several things. Not necessarily in this one, but in the previous one, where he talks about like his plan. That he wants to capture 2 specific devil fruits, right? He wants to capture one devil fruit that is supposedly the treasure of Elbaf, and another devil fruit. My guess, if I had to think about it, what the 2 devil fruits are, I think the fruit on Elbaf is either going to be the Yami fruit or the Nika fruit. I think one of those 2 fruit were in Elbaf. However, the fruit was then eventually stolen for some strange reason, and nobody has seen it since, and more than likely Rockstar was never able to obtain it, right? But I had to guess it had to be like the Nika fruit or the Yami fruit that Blackbeard currently has. Now, could it be something else? I don't know, because it's like the whole thing with Rox is that he's trying to amass an army to eventually go back to where Emu's located and finally beat Emu for some strange reason. He talks about, if you want to stand with me on the day of destiny. My guess is that Rox knows about the prophecy on Elbaf. You know, he was at Elbaf, so he probably already looked at it and was like, oh, I want to be that guy. You know, I want to be that guy of destiny. Maybe he wanted to be, you know, Nika. Maybe he wanted to be the sun god. And maybe he figured out that, like, in order to, you know, fulfill the prophecy on the day of destiny, he has to create an army, like in, you know, the mural where you see the sun god and his entire army going up against that giant demon that we see in the mural. And what he's doing is essentially amassing that army for that fateful day when they confront the giant demon like they did in the mural. So, you know, what could those devil fruits be? It could be, I was talking with somebody about this, it could be something where it's a devil fruit that allows them to control multiple people or like control something. Control a large army in some sort of way. Think of very similar to how, like, in Naruto you had the whole thing with Madara and the people, that entire army at the third ninja war, where, you know, you had a lot of people who were dead that were brought back to life. Now, I don't think Oda's going to do that. I highly doubt Oda's going to do that because it just, I don't see him pulling that stuff off. But he's clearly going for some sort of devil fruit that increases his army, so that on the day of destiny he can go and confront Emu and fulfill the prophecy in the mural. The other thing I want to talk about is Rock saying, "I'll take you to the World Summit." To me, what the World Summit is essentially at the top of the red line. That's where the final battle of the final war will take place. At the very top, at the very peak of the world, which is the top of the red line. And this will then lead to the destruction of the red line, as well as whoever the final villain is, whether it's Blackbeard, Emu, or my theory that Blackbeard and Emu are going to fuse together to create and become the final villains together, right? With either Emu or Blackbeard initiating that fusion. I don't know which one Oda is essentially going to go for, right? But at some point, he's going to fuse. At some point during the story, one of them is going to take control over the other, and combined, they will create that huge demon that Luffy, the Sun God, will eventually face. And this battle is likely going to take place at the top of the red line, where the World Summit essentially is. And that's what I think Rox is trying to do: create a massive army, similar to probably what he saw in the mural in Elbaf. Right? Maybe that's why he was in Elbaf in the very beginning. Well, that and also to speak with Harold, but more than likely he saw the mural. He saw what the prophecy was all about and decided, okay, I need this army. I need specific devil fruits. Maybe he knows something else that we don't know yet, where those devil fruits are needed. Maybe that's why I think it's likely that the fruit on Elbaf was the Nika fruit. Because, you know, the giants believed in the sun god. They believed in you know, the sun god, the Nika fruit, and all that stuff. So maybe that's what the fruit in Elbaf was. And maybe that's why Emu always wanted to go to Elbaf to try to take over Elbaf and so on and so forth, because he probably, or she probably knew that that fruit was there. The second fruit, I don't know. My guess is going to be, like I said, my guess is the Yami fruit, simply just because Blackbeard wanted it so badly to the point that he killed Thatch. So my guess is that Blackbeard probably overheard it from his dad or something. I don't know. And that's why he wanted the Yami fruit, because he probably knew about its powers, knew about what it can do, and Rox wanted it as well. So that's why I think both fruits that he wanted was the Nika fruit as well as the Yami fruit. Now, what exactly happened to Rox? We don't know yet. My guess is that he either died or somehow, some way, he is connected to Blackbeard to some capacity. I would not be shocked if Rox returns, not necessarily, not necessarily comes back to life, but somehow the embodiment of his soul or something like that will come forward with Blackbeard in some sort of capacity. And that will be then when Blackbeard essentially meets up with Emu and they have a conversation, something happens, bada bing, bada boom. They become the demon, and then Luffy has to fight the demon. But I like the final page because of the fact that it definitely confirms, to me at least, that the final battle will take place at the peak of the Red Line. And I think Rox saying, "I'll take it to the World Summit," is literally that. Rox is by far the best villain in One Piece so far. In my personal opinion, like, the amount of aura, the amount of power he has, the amount of strength he has, his influence, like, all of these guys could literally betray Rox at any point, but they don't, because they all have a mutual goal in some sort of form or way. And more than likely, they believe that they cannot defeat Rox. Right? So Rox automatically becomes, like, the fucking top tier fucking villain, because, like, everybody follows him. Like, literally, his lineup of the pirate, of his crew, completely destroys what Blackbeard is doing. I'm sorry. As much as I think Blackbeard is a very good written villain, like, he is nothing like his dad. I'm sorry. He will definitely succeed more than his dad ever did, in terms of, like, where he's going to end up during the final war. But at the same time, like, it's like, bro, you will never live up to your daddy. Like, I'm sorry, Blackbeard, you are never living up to your daddy. Like, your fucking dad, Rox D. Zebek, has so much fucking aura right now. It's fucking nuts. He's literally fucking just bringing out aura. He's leaking aura. He's leaking just how much of a fucking badass he is. I'm sorry, Blackbeard, but, like, I feel like no matter what you do, you'll never compare to your dad. Your dad is a fucking badass. Your dad fucking understands what he needs to do. Like, he's creating a crew of fucking monsters. He's essentially, they are, following him. They do have their own goals and stuff like that, but, like, goddamn, his dad is a badass. I just don't know about how Blackbeard can ever oversurpass, which is why I don't think Blackbeard's going to be the final villain. I think Emu is going to be, or Emu and Blackbeard as a fusion would. I just do not see Blackbeard as the final villain. I do see Blackbeard killing Shanks, and fighting Luffy to try to get to Laptail for the One Piece, and then eventually Luffy does beat him there, right? But Luffy never obtains the One Piece because Emu shows up and essentially takes the One Piece, maybe kidnaps Blackbeard's body after he is defeated, and then they fuse to make that demon, because Emu is a soul without a body, Blackbeard is a body without a soul, which is why he cannot sleep at night, and that's why they fuse. They finally meet each other, they fuse into the final form, and then Luffy's gonna have to fight the Sun God after that. I made a couple of videos on Divas on it if you ever want to check it out on my channel. But yeah, I think that overall the last panel of and, like, information about Rox is fucking awesome. This chapter was really fucking good. Alright, so we have this as one of the big things that happened in this chapter. And I'm trying to remember off the top of my head if anything else interesting happened before we move on to the shipping discussions. And also, why is so too many characters all times a new chapter? Because Oda has to introduce a bunch of these characters as much as he can before he finishes off One Piece. So he's essentially doing this to catch up. He's essentially doing this to catch up because the ending of One Piece is getting close. Oh, excuse me. So it's like he's gonna be introducing a bunch of new characters. And a bunch of old characters that we only knew about, currently. So, and he's gonna reveal, like, what they were like in the past. So that's why Oda is, like, a little bit rushing and putting new characters in it, because he's trying to get through everything before the final war, the actual final saga. Because One Piece is ending. I know it sucks. I know it's hard to believe, but One Piece is ending. You know, catching up on 1,000 plus, yeah, essentially. How you doing, Cool Fooled Me? Hopefully you're doing well. Okay, so now that we discussed about Rocks, which I think is right now the fucking best villain that One Piece has had so far, let's talk about the other portions of the chapter that I think really how do I put this? Really was the talk of the chapter. Like as great as Rocks was in this chapter and like the more info about him, he wasn't the main focus for a lot of people in this chapter. And this is where my expertise, I feel, is warranted as to why I'm also streaming information about One Piece. Before we continue, any questions? Anything you want to ask me? Before we continue on to the big, and the talk of the town of the chapter. Ah, delicious, delicious agua. If not, we can move on. What's your opinion on the shadow fruit playing a part? Shadow fruit. Do you mean the Morius fruit? Morius fruit? I think that's literally going to be how he Rocks, not Rocks, but how Blackbeard assembles a large army via the shadows. Via Moria's power, because Moria unfortunately had to join Blackbeard's crew despite the fact that he didn't want to, and I believe, right? I don't think he killed him. I believe Moria was forced to join, like he was kidnapped by Blackbeard, correct? Just want to double check. Okay, so he was imprisoned by Blackbeard, but then he was rescued by Perona with the help of Kobe. Okay. So, there is a possibility that you could see Blackbeard going after Moria and killing him, and then obtaining the Shadow Fruit to then increase his army using the Shadow Fruit. I think that's essentially what could happen and how the Shadow Fruit could play a part. Like I said, I think it's similar to how, like, in Naruto, you had, you know, the Third Ninja War, and then you had all those corpses become, like, you know, those corpses essentially became, like, part of the army. I could see the Shadow Fruit being the same thing. I could see the Shadow Fruit playing that same part. It's not going to be the same because it's going to essentially steal the shadows and give it to other characters, but I think also what it can include would be the what do they call them? The Seraphim. You know, I think Seraphim can also work. Remember, Seraphims are essentially I'm blanking on the word. Not clones, but like artificial bodies. I would not be surprised if somehow the Shadow Fruit is used to possess the Seraphim and bring him under the control of Blackbeard. I would not be surprised by that. But that will only work if the Seraphim somehow lose control and no longer and become like these lifeless bodies. That's the only way it will work. But I do think the Shadow Fruit can play a huge part, especially with Blackbeard and him enforcing his entire army. You know, getting stronger during the final war. Or during the battle with Luffy, whatever Blackbeard's role is. Whether it's just going to be facing Luffy, or it's going to be part of the big final war that will take place. Okay, so now that we have discussed about rocks, let's talk about the other bigger portion of the chapter that had a lot of people discussing, and it's something that I want to discuss because I am a One Piece shipper who likes talking about shipping, and this chapter was a doozy for shippers. Doesn't matter which side of the shipping stratosphere, the shipping planet you are on, it kind of had almost every single ship discussing over it. Right? I guess the first thing would be, get away, is talk about the color spread. The color spread was a big talking point. A lot of Nami fans were not happy, not with the color spread, but they were not happy with people who were leaking the chapter. And the reason being is that a lot of the people who were leaking the chapter were talking specifically about how this is a Wings of the Pirates, the Wings of the King of the Pirates themed color spread, which yes, it is. That's part of it, right? You have Roger, Rayleigh, Gaban, Zoro, Sanji, the parallels. You have Luffy, but a lot of Nami fans were upset because none of them said anything about Nami being in the color spread, and that pissed off a lot of Nami fans, myself included. And the reason why is because there is a inherent problem with leakers and them essentially leaking things that are mostly agenda based. Like, they specifically only talk about the chapter whenever there is an agenda that they have, that they want to pursue. Hello, Nameless. They didn't include Nami? They did not. It wasn't until we got the spoiler summaries that we learned that Nami was in the color spread. Yet, none of them ever fucking said anything. All they talk about was the monster trio. They're talking about fucking Sanji, Luffy, Zoro, or the wings. Like, this color spread was all about the wings of the King of the Pirates. Okay, that's great. Fantastic. We're happy. But there was no reason, absolutely no fucking reason to not include Nami. You know, like, why didn't you include her? It's because they wanted the agenda of the Wing of the Pirates, the Wings of the Pirates, because there's a lot of fucking debates, and I don't know why, about how people believe that Sanji is not a Wing of the Pirate. First off, that's a stupid fucking thing to say. Sanji is clearly a Wing of the Pirate. I know. Look, I don't like Sanji. Sanji is my least favorite Straw Hat. You know? I fucking hate Sanji. Mostly post-time skip Sanji. I really don't like post-time skip Sanji. But, like, even I will admit that, one, Sanji is a Wing of the Pirate King. I think anyone who disagrees with that, I think is a little foolish, and they have an agenda and hatred for Sanji to the point where they don't want him to be a Wing of the Pirate. They don't want him to be somewhat important in the story. Right? It's the same debate with Sanji, whether or not he's going to get Conquerors. I believe he will. I don't like Sanji, but I believe he will get Conquerors. We will talk more about that a little bit as we go through the chapter and certain scenes from the chapter that I want to discuss. Right? I think he will get it. But there are so many people in the One Piece community that just so focused and get so mad when people, like, rage bait them. You know? It's like this is my personal opinion of how you should leak things if you are a leaker in the One Piece community. Right? First off, I wouldn't recommend leaking anything. I think leakers are it's just stupid. I think everyone can have the patience to wait for the official release, right? But leakers only want to leak the chapter because they want it to be as quick as possible. They want to be seen. They want to be noticed. I know this is going to be a hot take, but, like, trust me. For the people who are leaking, like, One Piece chapters or any manga chapter, I'm sorry. Once One Piece ends, you will be forgotten. You will not be remembered in the community, right? Yeah, like, the moment One Piece ends, no one's going to essentially care about what you think. Because the only thing people cared about that you did for the One Piece community is leaking the chapters. Right? It sounds harsh, right? But, like, that's the reality of it. People literally follow like a lot of these leakers because they want to see when they leak the chapter. Right? But when that stops, then what happens? What are you going to do? You're going to try leaking another series? People won't care about that series as much as they care about One Piece. But my point is that I'm trying to say is that if you want to be a leaker, one that is, that comes at the price of like, doing something that you shouldn't be doing. But at the same time, leakers should not have agendas. Or should not put agendas first and foremost into what they do. If you see something in the chapter, you have to tell it as it is and allow people to make their own conclusions. After the chapter comes out, then you can talk about your own agenda. Like what you liked about the chapter, your opinions of it. Not when you're actually trying to relay information to everyone else. And I know probably some leakers are going to say, well, we don't have to leak this stuff. You could just not, read the chapter, wait until the official release. I guarantee you so many people will. So many people will, because people are already having issues with the translations. So it's like, that's not really a threat. I feel like most people will be glad to wait for their official release. But that's my point. You're not supposed to relay information that has agenda. Just relay information as it is. How hard is it to just say that Nami was also in the color spread? That, like, come on. And the moment that they fucking finally said something, of course people got mad. I don't care if you feel like you were trying to protect Nami. I saw some excuses like that. You wouldn't need to. You literally, if you put her name when you were relaying information about the fucking color spread, no one would even give a damn if it was a Wings of the Pirate thing. But you made it about the Wings of the Pirate. That's the issue. That's why people were not happy that Nami was in the color spread. Because you made it seem like it was all about the Wings of the Pirate. When there was more than that. They don't want to include Nami even though she's important to the story. That's ridiculous. She's literally one of the main characters. She's a heroine of the series that even Oda claims it is. They don't want Nami to be involved in these agenda-based, power scaling, Sanji Zoro standing bullshit agenda piece. And it's frustrating as a fan of any other character. Whether it's Nami, whether it's Robin, whether it's fucking Frankie. Like, if you're only focusing on the things that you personally care about, then, like, what? Then that's like, it makes other fans just feel like we're not seen as viable fans. We're not seen as, like, important to you, to the leakers, It's frustrating. It's fucking frustrating. Literally, all you had to say was that it's the color spread features Zoro, Luffy, Sanji, Nami, with Rayleigh, Gaban, and Roger in the background. That's literally all you had to say about the color spread. But no, because they wanted to connect Zoro to Rayleigh, Luffy to Roger, Sanji to Gaban, Wings of the Pirate King, of the previous Pirate King, and Luffy who's going to become the future of the Pirate King. You wanted that to be the focus of the color spread. You wanted that because that was your agenda. Because you also wanted to prove a point to Sanji fans or Zoro fans, whatever your point was. But there was no need to remove Nami from the equation. And then you got shedded on by Nami fans. And then you literally try to go on some high-end copium to be like, oh, the only reason why I didn't put Nami or say that Nami was in the color spread because I think that Nami's more important than Zoro and Sanji as the Wings. Motherfucker, you are trying to save your fucking ass. Nami fans fucking shedded on you. They called you out. They said you were a bad fucking leaker. And literally fucking, you tried to saving yourself through Nami fans and trying to set Nami fans up to get shedded on by Sanji fans, maybe sometimes even Zoro fans or whoever, even maybe from fucking Robin Hancock fans. You're setting Nami up. You were setting Nami up. You were trying to disregard Nami as having any sort of significant importance to the story. Even if you say, oh, Nami is, the Pirate Queen, or like she's going to play a much bigger significant role than the Wings of the Pirate King. No, motherfucker. Like, no. You don't fucking care. You absolutely do not care. If you did care about that shit, you would say Nami was in the color sprint. But you didn't. You were called out. You made that. You tried fucking saving yourself. And I know Nami fans tried calling them out on it. Some of them got blocked. But at the same time, it's like, if you want to be a fucking leaker, you have to be unbiased. You cannot show your bias. I don't give a damn who you are. You could be a Shanks fan. You could be a Mihawk fan. You could be an, Will Government fan. Whatever. I don't care. If you're relaying important information, you have to be sincere about it. You have to not have some sort of agenda that you are highly focused on, because that's how misinformation occurs. And do you think they'll ever give Nami the respect she deserves? No. No. And I'll tell you why. One day, Nami's role in the story is going to be huge. It's going to be pretty fucking huge. They're going to try and say, oh my god, Nami is the greatest female character of all time. They can spout all of that any way they want. But people will know exactly who they were. Because, guess what? If you post it on the internet, it lives forever. Unless you're very lucky and it gets lost in the stream of the internet timeline. Right? You are going to be bombarded with people who took screenshots of how much disrespect you have shown Nami. And a lot of these accounts, like huge One Piece accounts, don't actually give a shit about Nami, no matter how much they want to say that they do. Because a lot of them have secret agendas. The only time they ever talk about Nami respectfully is when they know that the engagement, their posts will get boosted, they will get engagement points, all just because it is the perfect time to boost Nami up, because she did something amazing. So it's just like, no, you don't respect Nami. You hate that Nami's on this color sprint. You hate that she is behind Luffy. You hate that she's laying across the back panels of Rayleigh, Roger, and Gabon. You hate that. You want that to be Robin. You want that to be Hancock. There will always be people who will disrespect Nami no matter what. Because they hate how much Oda actually fucking loves her. She gets the most screen time. She has the second most manga panels out of any other character. She won. She was third place in the world popularity poll. And people accused Nami fans of body. They just can't accept the idea that Nami is fucking popular. They can't accept the idea that Oda loves Nami as a character, which is why she gets the most panel time. It's ridiculous. Hello, Mr. Dents. How are you? It's really fucking ridiculous. And I know people will probably say, oh, well, Nami gets all the screen time. How about, other characters like Robin and this and that? What do you want us to do? Like, legit, what do you want us to do? Most Nami fans that I know, most Nami fans I have seen on Reddit, Twitter, whatever, a lot of them are always happy to see Nami. I don't see a lot of them disrespect Robin or any other character unless they begin to disrespect Robin. Disrespect Nami, I mean. People will say, oh, Nami fans are bullies. Nami fans are so mean. I'm like, well, did you attack them first? Did you say that Nami's a fan service character? Did you say that Oda only puts Nami in color splits because she's fan service? Did you say that? You did? Well, why do you think they went and attacked you? Why do you think they said... Why do you think they fucking told you that, like, you're wrong? You wanted it. You wanted it just so that they could clap back, and then you can claim that they are bullies. I'm not saying that there are not some really weird Nami fans out there. Some Nami fans that actually do go ahead and bully people. Bully people's favorite characters. There absolutely is. I've seen some of them. I literally try not to associate with them. Because they're not actual Nami fans that literally represent her. And, like, literally also, there are these fucking... There's always a group of Nami haters that legit just think of her as nothing more than a fan service character. Who think that she's a gold digger. Who thinks that the only reason she exists in the story is just to be, an eye candy for the reader. And to me, that is highly disrespectful. Not only just to Nami, but to the fact that to Oda as well. Because he has taken care of making Nami have an important role in the story. An important role. A navigator. People say, oh, well, they could just, leave Nami and then find a new navigator. No. Because there's so much that Nami does that is something far more than what any other normal navigator does. Like, she's able to detect when the pressure is dropping to a significant, like, even to the smallest degree. That's how she was able to save the Straw Hats countless times from cyclones. She was literally sick. She was going to die in like 3 more days or something. And she was able to detect the cyclone. No navigator will ever fucking do that. I don't care who you fucking put, you pick out from a hat. No other navigator is able to do that. And the other thing, people say that Robin's more important to Luffy getting to Laugh Tale. I always fucking laugh at that. I always laugh at that claim, and I'll tell you why. Not because I don't think Robin isn't important. She is. I laugh at that because they simply do not realize at all that Robin does not know how to navigate. She literally couldn't navigate Bartolomeo's ship when they were heading to Zou. Luffy literally screamed out for Nami for help because no one there knew how to navigate. Hell, even Jinbei is like he doesn't understand the ocean currents the same way Nami does. He's a helmsman. He's a helmsman that is able to literally follow Nami's instructions and sail the ship to where they need to go. Literally, the reason why they were able to get to Skypiea is because Nami understood currents. She understood that the knock upstream was a giant current that all they needed to do was just follow the current. How they were able to get initially to the Grand Line up the Red Mountain, it was because of her, because she was able to realize that they were currents. Yes, other pirate crews were able to make it, right? Because they had a decent navigator. But there were also so many pirate crews that were not able to make it to the Grand Line and crash at the Red Line because they didn't have a good navigator. There is just so much more that Nami brings as a navigator that no other, navigator is able to do so. Like, Gabon was a navigator of the Roger Pirates. He was able to sell them to Laugh Tale. Great, that means that he has great navigational skills. Is he comparable to Nami? We don't know that yet because we don't actually know exactly to the extent that he's able to know navigation, able to map out things. But Nami still has this inherent ability to understand weather phenomena, pressure, when the wind stops. All of this stuff is important. And that's what puts her above the rest. We'll find out more if Gabon maybe has something to teach Nami. I don't know. But the idea that Robin, just by knowing what is said on the poneglyphs, is able to get Luffy to Laugh Tale is foolish. Because Oda literally shows you. He literally fucking shows you that Robin's information that she, found out via the poneglyphs, she related to Nami so that Nami herself could map out where they need to go. Gabon did the same thing. He got the information from Roger, who was able to read the poneglyphs, and was able to map out. He was able to map out the location where Laugh Tale was. It's literally the same thing that Nami's doing. But people will praise Gabon, but not praise Nami, and that is infuriating. Both Nami and Robin are needed to get to Laugh Tale to find the One Piece. Robin will find out the intel, the information that, you know, Nami needs, and then Nami will help lead Luffy and the others towards where it is. And more than likely, it is not an easy journey. It's not going to be fucking just sailing straight there. It's probably going to be difficult. Like, holy hell. It's not that difficult to understand. The reading comprehension of One Piece fans who have an agenda are absolutely abysmal. What do you think of Nami taking up so much space in all the sides with the Silver King, Rayleigh, Roger, and Gaban? What do you think Oda means by it? That's an interesting thing because it's like, why? I don't necessarily think that it's trying to showcase that Nami is or has some sort of connection to all three. But I think there has to be a clear reason why Oda did that. You know? There probably is some sort of reason for it. But you're right, it is very interesting that both Luffy and Nami are the ones that literally are presented with their entire bodies on everyone else's on the former Roger Pirates panels. Right? I mean, Gaban is a navigator, Nami's a navigator. Rayleigh talked to Nami to make her understand how to get to Fishman Island. But there's not much after that, so I don't know what the connection is. With Roger, again, I don't know what that connection is with Roger. I do think there is a reason Oda did that. I just don't know. And I don't know why. I don't know what the reason would be. Like, it's likely we just don't know enough information about Rayleigh, Roger, and Gaban yet to really look back at this yet. But yeah, I cannot give you a theory or an idea because I don't have enough information about the three where it can connect straight to Nami. I could connect it to Luffy, you know, simply just because Luffy is, you know, has some parallels with Roger. Was trained by Rayleigh, and you know Luffy is now connecting with Gaban, and likely Gaban's going to teach Luffy something where he's able to hurt the demons, the Brage and such that turn into demons, as well as harm the Holy Knights in some sort of way. So I think Gaban's probably also going to teach Luffy a little bit. So that's going to be the connection as well. I just don't know yet about Nami. We definitely need more information. We definitely need more information on this. So yeah, I don't know. Also, one other thing, because this is also gonna be this is also another topic that happens inside of the One Piece agenda community. Remember when when this chapter came out and it was about the wings of the pirates and stuff like that, right? A lot of people were saying that this essentially confirms, or it showcases to, you know, the people who didn't think Sanji was a wing, that, you know, it basically confirms that Sanji is a wing of the pirate crew, that he is essentially the parallel to Gaban. You know, they do have similarities to each other and stuff like that. But that this essentially confirms that, right? So doesn't that mean if color spreads are now confirmed canon by, you know, by those who essentially try to discredit them for a lot of reasons, right? If that is the case, hey, it's Sandy, what's up? Thank you so much for the subscription. How are you? If that is the case, right? And wouldn't it mean oh my god, just give me the fucking hell, Reddit. I fucking hate how Reddit operates. I really do hate how Reddit operates. Right? But if that is the case, that color spreads are now valid in any sort of arguments, doesn't that mean that by that reasoning, this is canon? This counts. So doesn't this mean that Zoro is the vice captain of the Straw Hats? Based on the fact, just based simply on the fact that this is canon. Oh, but wait. I know the excuse. I know what's going to be said. It's going to be said that no, this doesn't count. Why not? More than likely, they'll probably use the reasoning that Oda gave. You know, where he said that he didn't necessarily draw all of them as vice captains or represent as first mates, but that he just wanted to draw cool characters, which to me is a fucking bullshit excuse. He just didn't want to upset people. It's a bullshit excuse. But if we're saying color spreads are now canon, like, this is why I mean where you're setting yourself up to be trapped. You're setting yourself up for a trap. Because the moment you argue very heavily for one color spread, but then argue that this color spread proves your point and that this color spread is legit and is right, that's when you fall into the trap. And you can't use the excuse that, oh, not all color spreads are, canon, or are, not all color spreads, count. But you can't say that. You cannot pick and choose which color spreads you want, to essentially be canon or not. You can't do that. You can't. That's not how that works, Shidai's the monster treated again. She can cook like Sanji, fight like Zoro, and enjoys the journey like Luffy. I don't necessarily agree with that. I mean, I get it, but I don't know if that's a valid reason for me, at least. I don't know. I don't think I would use that. What do you think about Sanji Zoro stare down in the spread? Oh, well, I mean, that's easy. It means that Zoro and Sanji are confirmed canon ship. I mean, come on, Zosan is real. I mean, we all know that Zosan is real. Come on, like, Zoro and Sanji are in love with each other. Okay, if you want a serious answer, I think it's just Oda playing with the rivalry. That's it. They're literally just the wings of the Pirate King that argue a lot, but when it comes down to it, when they need to lock in, they lock in. It's just Oda just showcasing their rivalry, which more than likely is a callback to when Gabon said that he was the number 2 strongest among the Roger Pirates when they were discussing Gabon and Rayleigh. So it's a callback to that like Gabon and Rayleigh also had this rivalry. So Zoro and Sanji are being represented in that way. That's probably what Oda was thinking here. That alongside the wings. That's just the way I view it. But yeah, also there was another thing that I saw like a couple hours ago, where they talk about how like it was actually also the leaker, but it was also what's it called? It was also talking about how like Nami being behind Luffy is like her being the pirate queen and stuff like that. You know, maybe look at me. Look, I'm a Loonami shipper, so of course I'll be like, hell, fucking yeah. But like, to me, what was the most baffling thing about all of that is that like people are surprised by it. People are surprised by like people calling her the Pirate Queen, right? When literally you had color spreads of Oda showcasing it, you know? Hello, William Cabrera, Loonami fan here. Hey, welcome. Welcome, fellow Loonami fan. Like, they literally, like, I don't understand why they're so shocked. You know? Like, literally, fucking Oda himself has showcased Nami as the Pirate Queen. She's the only one wearing a crown. Pirate Queen. Queen. King. Queen. The knights. Literally a king and queen sitting on a throne. Like, look at this. Like, Oda has shown you how he views Nami countless times. Countless fucking times as the queen. Yet people are still surprised. They're still baffled by it. You know? It's like, it's so, it's like... He literally spelled it out for you! He literally had to even spell it out for you on a fucking color spread. Weather Queen! Like, it baffles me that so many people are just, like, shocked that Oda views her like so. Like, I don't get it. Like, I understand you don't want to believe it. I understand that you're not a Nami fan, that you want, you know, that you view Robin or Hancock or whatever character as a queen. Right? But it doesn't make sense that you are surprised when Oda calls Nami his queen. Like, there's a reason why we keep saying, why Nami fans keep saying that Nami is literally one of Oda's favorites. He literally calls her a queen. Like, I don't get it. It's definitely copium. It's definitely like some sort of insecurity that people have. Like, don't get me wrong. I don't hate any character that you may enjoy more. Right? I hate the fact that you make some bullshit claims, some bullshit, or say some bullshit things about Nami. That's what I hate. If you like Robin, if you think Robin is a queen, is your queen, you know, that's great. Be happy about it. She is your queen. But to Oda, Nami is his queen. It's not. It's literally. He literally had to spell it out for everyone. There's also the one about the fucking chess pieces, right? Can't fucking find my mouse. Where is my mouse? Like, literally, she is depicted as a queen here. As the queen chess piece. So it just baffles me that people are, like, confused as to why Oda does it. It's baffling. This is like legit top tier poor reading comprehension. That you cannot connect the dots. Like, people will literally connect a strand of hair or some fucking cookbook in a color spread to Sanji getting Conqueror's Haki. I'm sorry, but if you're using that as evidence for Sanji getting Conquerors, he shouldn't get it then. You know? That's not evidence. That is absolutely not evidence. It was a mistake by Oda. Like, it was an error that he corrected when the volume released. But, like, if that's your evidence, if that's, like, part of your evidence, I'm sorry, that's a weak-ass evidence. Or, like, connecting something, some weird random thing, and be like, yes, this means that Sanji or Zoro is stronger than the other. Like, what are we doing? You can connect that, but you can't fucking legit look at these color spreads, look at what Oda's telling you, and go like, oh, no, Nami's not a fucking queen. Like, and literally, the king is fighting peace. Literally, Oda even says that Luffy is the king piece. It's just so strange. It's just really so strange. What's your opinion on Nami's eye contact to Luffy in a custom shirt? Give me 1 sec. This one. Okay. Okay, so yeah, we could talk about that now. I'm done ranting about the fucking whole Nami stuff. Now, first of all, Nami's fucking gorgeous in this fucking color spread. She's fucking, look at her. She's fucking gorgeous. But let's talk about it. Right? Like, it is absolutely funny to me that Oda made, like, a part of the chapter's focus on the Kuja pirates, you know, the way Roger reacted, the way Gabon reacted, Rayleigh, the reaction, and all that stuff about the Kuja pirates and the whole love sickness and the, you know, all that stuff, right? Right? Iori, hello! I'm a shipper. Nice. Welcome. Yeah, shippers have a safe space here. Even if it's a ship I disagree with, you always have a safe space here. I will not at all judge you for your ship at all here. Even if I don't agree with it, I will not judge you for it. I'm so hyped for SummerSlam. SummerSlam's gonna be epic. I just won't be able to watch it because I'll be at work. Anyway, so I find it funny that Oda did this on the chapter where literally it was about the Kuja pirates and who they were interested in. Not the Kuja pirates, but like the Roger pirates and like the Kuja pirates, and like how Roger was interested in Shaki. Shaki was interested in Rayleigh. And Glorioso was interested in Roger. And in the same fucking chapter, you had a color spread where Oda literally puts Luffy in the center and Nami looking at him in the same way, that she literally, I think this is like the only time, or like she only looks at Luffy this way that I could recall. I'm hoping I can find it. No, wait, it's down there. Yes. It's below that. Looking at her in the same way she has been in the anime and the manga. It's literally another version of this, and it's like Nami only looks at Luffy this way. That's like, at this point, that's just not a coincidence. There's something there. If it happens once, okay, whatever. If it happens twice, okay, that's just a coincidence. If it happens a third fucking time, bruh, there's something going on here. There's fucking something going on here. You missed the rant, don't worry, Sandy. I have a few ships, Lunami and Lubin. Oh, Luffy and Robin? I mean, hey, you can ship whoever you want. You can ship whoever you want. It doesn't. It really does not matter. I won't tell you who you can ship. I will tell you if I disagree with it, but like anyone can ship whoever they want as long as it's not super weird. Like fucking like shipping like a child with a grown ass man. That is where I'm like, nah, man, you're fucking super weird. Oh, Loony, last thing to do. You think Rollins Judge is proper or is a story? I'm so undecided. I think it's proper, but you never know with Triple H in charge. That is a legitimate injury. That actually is a legitimate injury. I think they overplayed the severity of it, and he'll be back in SummerSlam probably to catch him with the Money in the Bank briefcase. I think he does have legit injury, but it's being overplayed and making it out to be more serious than what it is. He'll be back in SummerSlam. That's my opinion. Yes, it is. You were beer goggles, Loony? Beer goggles? What's beer goggles? Like I was drunk? I like the dynamic between them. That's, yeah. I mean, if that's what you enjoy, that's great. I also like Zoro and Perona. Yeah. I don't ship Zoro with anybody. And literally my only main ship is Luffy Nami. But like, I will say this about Zoro Perona. And that is that compared to every single Zoro ship that exists, there's one thing the Zoro Perona has that overshadows every other ship. And that is they are the only ship with Zoro that has spent more time together than any other Zoro ship. They spent time together for 2 fucking years. However, Zoro does not seem like he's interested in romance at all at the moment. We'll see if that changes in the future, but he has no interest. But the one thing Zoro Perona has over the other ships is that they have spent time together far longer than any other Zoro ship, and that is important because that is how I determine what is a good ship. Time is very important in building the trust and relationship between characters. I think he cashes it on Punk. Yeah, Punk would be the logical choice. So yeah, literally it's the same thing. It's the 3rd time Oda has drawn Nami looking at Luffy in some sort of way like this. That, to me, like, I'm sorry, like, in my headcanon, in my point of view, this is like a fucking girl in love. That she's looking at the person that she has feelings for. I cannot back it up in terms of, like, actual evidence in the manga specifically about Nami's feelings, right? But just from viewing these moments that Oda actually drew in his manga, this looks like a girl in love. I could be wrong, and again, it's my headcanon, so it's just me overthinking things. But let's go back to the color spread. Let's go back to this. The fact that, again, with how the chapter goes about with the Kuja pirates and the Roger pirates, and then you have Luffy and Nami, with Nami looking at Luffy like that, with narrowed eyes, which showcases softness, which showcases, like, several characters in the story that whenever they, like, look at someone lovingly, they have these soft eyes, their narrowed eyes, like, similar to, like, Nami. Like, he's spelling it out for you. I feel, like, he's trying to tell you something, but he doesn't want to actually confirm it. You know? And it's very unique that he decided to draw something like this. He absolutely did not need to have Nami here. He absolutely did not need to have Nami. But he did. He did draw Nami here. For what purpose? You know? For what purpose? I think that he's trying to essentially draw the things that he wants to draw, but he can't do it in the manga, at least not yet. And he's essentially trying to hint at you that this is going to happen. Right now, I can't show it to you, but I'm going to show it to you via the color spreads. And I think that is what he's trying to do. As for the logo on the shirt, it definitely does represent and look like the original Jolly Roger that Luffy drew. It's not as warped as the original drawing that Luffy did, but it looks similar. Right? It looks very similar. So, that is also another interesting thing. That Nami's wearing a shirt of the Jolly Roger that Luffy drew. She even called it abstract art, which essentially she said that she didn't even try to like make fun of it. She was just like, oh well, that's an interesting drawing, right? And I think it's because she herself is kind of like cares about art. She does draw. She's not an amazing drawer, but she draws maps. So I guess she has like, you know, like that feeling of like, oh, I'm glad that works. Thank you. She it doesn't make fun of people's drawings, and I think that comes from the fact that she's not an excellent drawer. She likes to draw maps, so she understands like it's difficult, so she doesn't make fun of it. What about him getting lost? Can that count as a ship? Zoro in directions? It's similar to Luffy and me, which just like I get it. It's a joke. It's a troll. But there are some people who actually believe it. There are some people who actually believe it, and it's just infuriating sometimes. But hey, that's my opinions on Nameless, on the shirt, Nami looking at her, and it's very interesting. It's a very interesting thing that Oda drew here. Like I said, it's almost like he's drawing something here where he wants to draw this, and we have seen him recently doing something with Luffy and Nami that is very interesting, and he wants to draw these things. Sometimes he corrects himself in those videos where he showcases the path to how he drew these color spreads. He has tried to sneak in stuff here and there in regards to Luffy and Nami. So this is actually really interesting that he constantly has been doing that for some of the color spreads so far that we have seen in the last like year or so. Yeah, but some people sadly say color spreads aren't canon. What's your opinion on that? If you spout that color spreads are not canon, but then use a color spread to try to prove something to yourself, or try to prove your point, you automatically cannot say that color spreads are not canon. You cannot pick and choose which color spreads you want to use as evidence. That is some bullshit. That is absolutely bullshit way of going about evidence. You either say color spreads are canon or say color spreads aren't canon. Do I take color spreads as canon? I take them at face value to the point where I'm like, there could be something there. I do not think that Oda doesn't draw some of the stuff here without some sort of purpose. So I do think a lot of the color spreads, or like most of the color spreads that he draws, has some sort of purpose. And that we definitely can use them as evidence. But you cannot spout that one color spread is canon but another isn't, and expect people to be like, oh, yeah, you know what, you're right. No. You either say color spreads are not canon or say color spreads are canon. You cannot pick and choose. The moment you pick and choose is the moment you lose credibility, in my personal opinion. I'm sorry. And I think color spreads, for the most part, are canon. If I was in the Straw Hats, I would be the writer. What would that be called in the crew? You'll be the, what's it called? You'll be keeping the log. I forgot what it's called, but you'll be keeping essentially the log of their adventures, which I think both Robin and Nami take care of that. Where you log the details of your adventures. I think Oda said that both... I think Nami did it initially pre-time skip, then Robin joined, and then she started doing it, if I'm not mistaken. But essentially, you'll be that. The scribe? Yeah, it'll be the scribe. Quartermaster assistant? No. No, it'll probably be like the scribe or something. It wouldn't be like quartermaster or something. Huh. Do you think something big can happen in this arc, or we need to wait another arc? In terms of Luffy Nami? In terms of Luffy and Nami, do I think there's going to be something big? I think that essentially I think the way they have something happen between Luffy and Nami, it's probably going to be at the end of the arc. Maybe you have another scene like we had in Egghead, where, you know, Nami is like giving Luffy a lap pillow. Oda might draw something similar to that when Luffy is tired or like injured. The only other scenario I could see them having something like a moment or like a what's it called, an event happen between them. I think depends on what Emu does. Because there's a lot of Nami fans who believe the idea that Emu is able to possess characters. No matter who the character is, they're able to possess them in some form or way. Like how Emu possesses Gunko. Right? The Nami theories include that Emu is going to possess Nami. That is one theory, and that will lead to a chapter called Luffy versus Nami, because out of the East Blue Five, the only member of the East Blue Five that hasn't gotten into like a conflict or into a fight with Luffy is Nami. I don't believe that the fight will be physical; it will be more confrontational. It could be physical, assuming Emu uses Nami and uses her as like either bait or a shield, or actually uses her to attack Luffy. There's a chance that there will be a Luffy versus Nami chapter sometime in the near future, because she's the only one of the East Blue Five that doesn't have one. But it won't be because Luffy and Nami are fighting over something. It will likely happen because of Emu. The only way it happens without Emu is if Nami meets Shamrock and she confuses Shamrock with Shanks, or Shamrock, tries to trick her and saying that he is Shanks. And when Nami tells Luffy that Shanks is the one responsible for all this, or like Shanks is the one, or Shanks is a bad person, Luffy will get frustrated about that. That he wouldn't believe. And that Nami will get frustrated with him, and they get into a conflict because of that, and she runs away. When she runs away, essentially something happens where she's maybe gets kidnapped. Maybe Emu finds her and then kidnaps her, possesses her, and so on. That's the only way it happens if Emu's not involved in terms of why Luffy and Nami would fight each other. So that is one of the prevailing Nami theories out there in terms of what could happen in Elbaf. There's also the one about her going to Heaven World, and then she'll discover something, because we still don't know who that voice was that spoke to her when she first arrived at the Lego Castle. Someone was calling out to her, but no one knows who it was. Likely it was probably Usopp, in my personal opinion. Maybe it was something else. Maybe she could hear the voices of all things. Maybe she had some sort of observation haki that allowed her to hear something. Maybe it was Zeus. We don't actually know. Maybe the anime might fill us in on it. Maybe like the anime might, maybe they might ask Oda himself and they'll tell us and reveal to us who it actually was. But some people think that it's something from the Heaven World. That someone from the Heaven World is calling out to her. And the only time that they were able to connect with her is when she was unconscious. So there could be something there. I think, like I said, the only way we get any sort of like Nami stuff involved, like Nami lore, Nami stuff, or like even a Luffy Nami moment, really depends on what Emu does and what Oda does with Emu. In terms of, does he possess Nami, does he not, and so on and so forth, He may possess Loki. I think that's a possibility as well. I wouldn't like ignore that idea. That's definitely something that he could do. Maybe it's the voice of her mom? I don't think so. The Roger Roos flashback that we don't need but all want. It's possible we might get that with this flashback, but we might get that with this flashback. But I think it's because of how much focus it has on rocks. Because it is Loki's flashback, I doubt we'll see anything with Rouge. So I don't know. I would be shocked if we got something flashback-wise with Rouge in this arc. But I wouldn't be upset about it. It'll be very interesting to see exactly how Rouge was. How Roger met Rouge and so on and so forth. It'll be very interesting to see that. I just don't know if we're actually going to get that during Elbaf. Well, you said Oda has big plans for Nami's backstory, right? Yes. So Nami's backstory was mentioned 2 times by Oda. The first time was that he wanted to write One Piece Strong World. The original concept of One Piece Strong World was focusing on Nami's backstory. But he when after discussing with like the director and Toei, the animation company, he realized that it was too emotional. I think the response he got was that it was really emotional. You know, they wanted to do it, but it was really emotional, and they apparently cried. And it was like, you know what? Never mind. I want them to not feel emotional, but I want them to feel like they're going to movies to have fun. You know, and create that action flick that, you know, people enjoy going to the movies for. And that's why he switched it to what Strong World became. But he continued and focused on Nami as well as Nami's bond with Luffy. And it's still my favorite movie. And then the second time it was mentioned was during Film Gold. I forgot who it was. I think it was Oda who said it. Where he was approached by the writer of Film Gold and was asked about if he could include something about Nami's past, which was eventually what the Karina stuff was. And Oda was like, sure, you can do that, but don't delve too deep into Nami's backstory. Because apparently he has a plan for it. So that's why a lot of Nami fans, including myself, believe that there is a lot more to Nami than what we know so far. That there's going to be something bigger, something grander for Nami. Does she need lore? Not really. She doesn't need like a backstory. But I do think because she is the heroine, and most of the time writers really do give the heroine a really big role in some form of way. I think Oda will give her some big role in the final war, in the final saga. But who knows? Like, there's many theories about Nami's lore. Like, Toki sent her to the future. There is that she's a member of the Burka in some sort of way. That she was the royalty of the ancient kingdom. There's a bunch of theories like this. But I do believe that Oda does have something planned for Nami. How strong do you think that Enel has gotten since his time on the moon? He has his own army. Probably strong. I mean, he still won't be able to beat Luffy, so. What do you think we will learn about Nami's past? There's a good chance in Elbaf. If not in Elbaf, more than likely as we approach the final war. I think as we approach the final war, we will see more of Nami's past. I think that's when we'll finally start seeing it. Could be on the next island that they go after Elbaf. Could be in Elbaf. But I think the closer we get to the final war, that's when we'll learn more about Nami's past. But like I said, it really depends on what Imu does in Elbaf. Because I think that essentially will lead to us learning more about Nami's lore. But maybe he joins in his own way to help begrudgingly. He's going to be involved in the final war in some way. Because he's going to bring the moon people down from the heavens. From the moon down to the earth, because that's part of the prophecy. What has Blackbeard been up to? He's been trying to get as many devil fruits as possible. He just recently captured Garp to essentially use him as I'm trying to remember if he's trying to use him as insurance against the world government, or try to use him as hostage negotiations with the world government. But he's essentially planning to create a large army to then go after the One Piece. No, Garp is still alive. He didn't kill Garp yet. So yeah. I think it's being used as Luffy bait. I disagree. I don't think it's going to be used as Luffy bait. What I think it's going to be used is a negotiation tactic against the world government, especially against Imu. Because Imu... I doubt Imu will actually give a damn about if Garp is taken. I don't know. I just think that Blackbeard thinks that, like, Garp is strong enough and, like, a big enough name that, like, it'll be used with Imu as some sort of negotiation tactic. But I don't know if it will work or not. What will be used as bait for Luffy is Blackbeard killing Shanks. Blackbeard will kill Shanks, And then Blackbeard will start heading towards the One Piece. Luffy hears about Shanks' death and realizes, oh, Blackbeard's now headed to the One Piece. He killed one of the strongest pirates that he knew, his idol. And now he has to go and get ready to go and confront Blackbeard to try to get to Laptail first before him. Which I think Nami is going to be able to do that. And I think that's going to be a big role in how Nami helps Luffy get to Laptail first. Because her navigational skills are going to be far superior than Lafitte's navigational skills. And that's going to be the big difference. And then probably Cross Guild will also get involved in the battle for Laptail. And then the winner comes out to be Luffy. He arrives at Laptail, but then Emu shows up. Emu steals the One Piece. And then Emu essentially uses Uranus or whatever the Skybeam weapon that is. And uses it to destroy Laptail. What do you think Dragon's up to? I think he's going to... So what I think is going to happen is that while we are focused on Elbaf right now, and we'll probably finish off Elbaf, Emu is likely going to return because Dragon and the Revolutionary Army is now going to go after the Holy Knights and Mara Joyce while Emu is dealing with the Elbaf stuff, and the Holy Knights will retreat. And then that's when Dragon, while that is happening, Dragon's already going there to confront Emu and head over to where the throne is. I think that's what's going to be. Nice haircut, thank you, Static. Oh man, the Hancock Luffy wars are never end? Huh. Tell me. Do you think Blackbeard will try to steal Nami? No. I don't think so, and the reason why is because at the point in time when Blackbeard is going to start heading to Laptail will be after he kills Shanks. So at that point, he's not going to need a navigator because he already has one. So I don't think Blackbeard will try to steal Nami. He needed to steal Pudding because Pudding at least has the ability to read the opponent list, which is what he needs. Unless Blackbeard realizes that Lafitte can't navigate towards it, then he might steal Nami. But I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening. Do you think, I still think Roger's related to Luffy? No, he's not. The only way Roger will ever be related to Luffy is if the D-Clan, they're all connected to each other through a birthright from, like, Joy Boy's era. Which I doubt it, because Nefertari DBB was not connected to Joy Boy's, like, bloodline or anything like that, so I don't see Roger being related to Luffy. Joy Boy might be in some sort of capacity. I don't think Luffy's like a direct descendant of Joy Boy, but there's definitely some sort of connection that's going to be had there. When do you think Sanji will be able to save Pudding? It will be during the clash with Blackbeard as they race towards Laptail. That's essentially where it's going to wind up being Sanji saving Pudding from whoever is holding her hostage, whether it be Burgess or someone else. He saves her, and they'll have some sort of, like, discussion or something happens. But I think the fact that Blackbeard kidnapped Pudding does not mean Sampo is dead, as some try to claim it is. The reason why I kind of say he might be related to Luffy is based on the fact that there have been several characters that have kind of hinted the idea that Roger could be related to Luffy. No. So, that is another thing I tweeted about. A lot of people seem to think that Roger and Luffy had to be similar. But the reality is we did not know who Roger was. The only thing we had so far for a long time before these flashbacks happened was that people saw Roger and Luffy, and people just assumed that was because Luffy was very similar to Roger. Now, what it was is that Luffy's ideology and the way he thinks about freedom, about being a pirate king and all that stuff was very similar to the way Roger spoke. Right? If you remember, every time that, like, any character was, like, noticing, like, similarities between Luffy and Roger, like Rayleigh, it was because, like, he heard and saw, like, the things Luffy has said that are very similar to Roger. right? Even Shanks said, like, when he first met Luffy as a kid, he was like, you won't believe this. I think he was talking to Rayleigh Gabon, but he was talking and he was like, you won't believe this. I actually met some kid who was talking just like the captain was. So that's why I think that's where, like, the misconception is. Luffy was never going to be a Roger clone. The parallel that Luffy has with Roger is the ideologies and the way Luffy thinks about freedom and all that stuff. They have very similar ideologies. It's how Yamato was able to connect them together. That's what it was. It wasn't that Luffy was exactly like Roger. And I'll even show you in even tell you about it in the chat and some of the chapter stuff that we will discuss in a few bit. You think we'll ever get lore in Garps and Dragon Wife? Dragon's wife will probably see at some point during his flashback, I think. I don't know if like her being important to why Dragon became a revolutionary or a freedom fighter. I don't think we'll see anything about Garp's wife, but we will see something about Dragon's wife. Unless Dragon's flashbacks also includes his mom, which then we'll figure it out. Do you believe Joy Boy might be a member of the D-Clan? I think Joy Boy is the one that started the D-Clan. I believe that Joy Boy was the person who... Essentially, the D-Clan were the members of his pirate crew or people that associated with him as the first pirate that ever existed in the world. And his crew took on the initial D because the D, if you flip it around, looks like a grin. So it's essentially, they took the name D because the grin of Joy Boy. That's what I think. I think the D-Clan is essentially people who were either associated or were members of Joy Boy's clan. Or Joy Boy's pirate crew. I think that's what it was. So I think Joy Boy, while may not have the D in his name, likely was the one who started it. And his crew was the one who began it. Where after his death, they took on his name as a middle initial and spread across the world. But slowly, as time went on, people forgot about the D clan and like the name of the D, and then it just got forgotten through history. Part of that was Imu trying to erase the D clan from its existence. I think that's what is going to happen, or at least that's like the lore behind the D clan. Okay, so let's talk about what we saw in the chapter, the Kujo Pirates, and Roger. I don't think I posted anything in regards to that. Actually, yeah, before that, I just want to say, Ida, Harold's wife, the one that he actually loves, is so Nami-coded. Like, holy shit, look at this. Like, the way she's reacting about, you know, Loki, that is clearly how Nami would react if, like, she heard that someone almost didn't want to save a kid because it was drowning. Ida is literally Nami-coded. And then when Loki called her Gold Digger, which, you know, a lot of people in the fucking community like to call Nami, right? Like, Oda was making fun of that, and then she responded by, like looking at him like he was like a cute kid or something, you know? That is Nami-coded as well. It's like, their dynamic is very similar to the way Luffy Nami's dynamic is. The way Oden Toki's dynamic is. The way Kuma and Ginny's dynamic was. You know? I don't think I have it here. Hey, cute doggy. Go chip. That's me. Hold on, let me find it then. Let me find a, because I don't want to actually use the actual actual chapter simply just because of, well, let's just say, Shonen Jump or Viz Media might come after me like fucking savages. Okay, there's one right here. Oh god, One Piece Cruise had a new thing. What? Really? Interesting. Alright. Uh, my apologies. I'm just looking for like the manga pages for what I'm going to talk about. So this is one of them. I'll just show it right now. Ah, no, I lost it. They really not have. Did they really not? Really, no one posted anything. God damn it! Actually, hold on. Maybe this will help. Alright, first things first. I guess we'll use this. Why am I not able to... It's because I need to click the image address? Okay, first off, Gloriosa. Gloriosa, the first empress that we know of, at least the first in line, of the Kuja pirates. This is Gloriosa. People are looking at her, and she's acting very much like Hancock, with the way she's trying to use her beauty to get the affection out of people. We also have... And these are the empresses minus the one that unfortunately died, Toritoma. She is in the chapter, but you know, she wasn't an empress at the time. So we have Gloriosa, Shaki, Shakuyaku, and Hancock. Now, let's talk about this first, because I know there's been a debate over it. A lot of people, especially those who root for Luffy Hancock, view Shaki as the parallel to Hancock, because she's able to kick ass, she's powerful, she's strong, and she's loved by everyone, even more so than Gloriosa. That to them is the parallel that they see in between her and Hancock, and thus Shaki looks more like Hancock, or is parallel to Hancock. Then you have Gloriosa, who exhibits the same style of like showcasing of her attraction. You know, I'm beautiful and all that stuff, while Shaki doesn't necessarily do that. She just walks, and all of a sudden people are just like goo goo gaga over her, right? Gloriosa has that, and Gloriosa also has the same crush, the same feeling of love for Roger, the same way Hancock has for Luffy. And Gloriosa contracts the love sickness, just like Hancock did, which is also parallel to Hancock, because that's just how Hancock is showcasing her attraction to Luffy, very similar to Gloriosa, as well as her showcasing off her beauty, similar to how Gloriosa did it by posing, right? While Shaki, when she does it, she just walks, people love her. Then she has a badass panel where she essentially has Roger at her feet. Here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. Parallels are never one-to-one, right? We see that with Luffy Roger. The parallel that Luffy has to Roger is the ideology, is the sense of freedom and how they approach like the world. You know, that is a parallel that Luffy and Roger have. In terms of personality, they're vastly two different people. You know, they are vastly two different people. Roger's more of like the dude bro of fucking the dude bro version of Luffy, right? And they eventually will both become the Pirate Kings. That's the parallel. But the ideologies that Luffy says, the thoughts that Luffy says about freedom and stuff like that, that's what he shares with Roger. So not all parallels are one-to-one. Another example. Zoro and Rayleigh, right? Zoro and Rayleigh are usually paralleled. Sometimes it's because they're the vice captains. That is a parallel. They both have scars on their eye. And so on and so forth. That kind of stuff. When you're paralleling characters together from one generation to another, the author's role is to not make the parallel extremely one-to-one. At that point, you're essentially just making a carbon copy of another character in someone else. And a lot of people do not like that at all. That makes sense, right? You don't want to create a carbon copy of characters. Sometimes it works with some sort of agenda that you have, but you don't want like a full carbon copy. This is literally the same thing with Hancock. Hancock is not a one-to-one parallel to Shaki. I know Luffy Hancock fans have been claiming that she is a parallel to Shaki, but she's only a parallel to Shaki in one aspect. And this is going to be like a discussion, a little hot take that I'm going to give you. While she also shares a different parallel with Gloriosa. So Gloriosa and Shaki, if you fuse them together, you get Hancock. That's how it works. She has parallels to both. Here's where I'm going to be a little controversial in terms of my opinion on Hancock. Because this chapter kind of signifies to me exactly what I always thought. Gloriosa represents the side of Hancock that focuses on the love and the beauty. Or not the beauty, but more like the posing, the flair. That's what Hancock has from Gloriosa. Beauty, the flair, as well as the love sickness that they both have. Shaki represents Hancock's fighting style, her beauty. They both share the same beauty because, let's face it, they're both fucking empresses. Their beauty, the badassery that Hancock can display, as well as black hair. Unless, we find out that it's not black hair, but we already know what Shaki's hair looks like because we already met her. But that's also what Hancock also represents. Shaki represents the good, badass character of Hancock that I enjoy. That many Hancock fans enjoy. That the side of Hancock that people claim that she is the strongest female character in the One Piece world. That is the side of Shaki that parallels with Hancock. The side of Hancock that I think is so cool of her. Gloriosa represents the opposite of that. The parallel to Hancock, where it represents the weaker side of Hancock. The flair. The feeling of jealousy. The love sickness. Where she just becomes head over heels for someone and just immediately loses her coolness. Loses her toughness. Her side that is Shaki. That is what I think Oda is representing by introducing both Gloriosa and Shaki at the same time. They're showing you the two sides of Hancock. She gets things from both of them in some form of capacity. Now here's where people will probably hate me for, especially the Luffy Hancock folk. While we do not know if Shaki actually contracted the love sickness because we don't see it, what we do see is, of course, Shaki winking at Rayleigh, showcasing some sort of, maybe some sort of attraction towards him, because out of all the characters, Rayleigh's the only one that doesn't, fawn over her, so, that is part of it. But she doesn't overreact. She doesn't fawn after him like Gloriosa does, or like how Hancock does with Luffy. To me, that is the way that the Kuja Empresses who do concoct the love sickness, or follow that same pattern, that's the way that Shaki presents herself with that and her feelings towards somebody is the victory route. the route that the character will get their love returned. The Kuja Empress will get her love returned. Because she's not fawning over him. She's not being like overbearing on someone. You know, she flirts, she winks at Rayleigh, right? She does, but she's not overbearing. She's not falling all over the place. She doesn't like lose her coolness. She doesn't become like this high school girl crush, where like she faints at the sight of the person that she loves. That is the winning route. That's how the Kuja Empress are able to get with the person that they love. Gloriosa, the way she fawns over Roger, and how Roger just completely ignores her, is the failing route. The failing route where she contracts the love sickness, tries to pursue Roger, but fails. Hancock presents the same way that Gloriosa does, meaning that to me, that signals that Oda is telling us that, oh, Hancock's going towards the failing route. Now, I do not believe Luffy Hancock is dead. I don't think it's completely dead. But the way Hancock is approaching her love, and it being very similar to Gloriosa, who did not get her love requited back, is leading her to failure. Is leading her to not get together with Luffy. There's many other reasons why I don't ship Luffy Hancock. I made a video on it recently. Am I back? Can you guys see me? So I'm back, okay. My OBS crashed. Gotta love it. So OBS just crashed. I apologize for that. OBS crashed. Hopefully you're still with me. I do apologize for that. I have no idea why it crashed. I do know we've had thunderstorms here, but like I doubt that would affect an OBS crashing. Anyway, well, okay, yeah. So going back to what I was saying, Hancock is representing the way Hancock's approaching love is the failure route, which likely it will mean that Hancock will lose. And will not get together with Luffy. At least that's how I interpret it. Do you think Hancock will be able to beat the love sickness? She already has. I'll explain it in a little bit, but let me go through everyone's comment first. Roger looks slightly like Luffy when he was younger when he recruited Rayleigh, but Luffy and Roger get angry, so talks crap at the friends. Downfall has the same feel, Roger. Yeah, his ideology, his the way Luffy approaches other people, the way he thinks about freedom and his friends. It's them like seeing Roger's ideology, but Roger and Luffy are completely two different people. It's also the fact that they both share the same dream and ambition. Exactly. They share the same ideology, and that's what people are paralleling them. That's what people are seeing in both Roger and Luffy. Yeah, but you can have personalities that relate to the main character, like Naruto's personality that's very similar to her mother, but the determination of his dad. Yes, but Luffy isn't Roger's son. In fact, Ace, who is Roger's actual son, showcases a lot of what his dad did. Of his dad personality. But that's the thing. Luffy isn't Roger's son. Twitch crashed? No, it should be back. It should be back, just Andy. Yeah, I know. It crashed on both because OBS crashed completely. But yeah, that's the thing. It would have made sense if Luffy was Roger's son, but he's not. So you can't really make that comparison. You can't really make that parallel. Do you think Hancock will be able to beat the love sickness? Actually, before that, I didn't even see the name underneath. Gloriosa looks like Nami to me. I disagree, because there's another panel that actually that showcases that Shaki looks more like Nami. I can actually show you it. I made it and it's stupid. So this is Shaki. Alright. Just give me the fucking image. This is Shaki. That looks more like Nami, doesn't it? This was also highly debated, but Shaki has the same character archetype as Nami. All you gotta do is flip the black hair to white, and it looks just like Nami. Gloriosa looks more... Gloriosa represents and looks more like Big Mom, Pudding, and Estrid, Harold's other wife. That's the character archetype that Oda's showing with Gloriosa. But Shaki's character archetype is pretty much similar to Nami's. If Roger wanted to be oh wait, that's what I mean by the fact that Roger may have had a cousin or a sibling follow a different path. If Roger wanted to be a pirate, then his sister cousin might want to become a revolutionary to change things. But that doesn't. But that. I don't know. I don't necessarily agree with that, because inherited will doesn't mean that the person has to be very similar to the character that they are inheriting the will from. It's the ideology and how they carry themselves is what inherited will actually is. Think about it this way. Is Naruto like Jiraiya? He's not. Yet Naruto carried Jiraiya's will. Naruto carried Jiraiya's inherited will. So it doesn't... It's not connected. They don't have to be related at all. At all. To have that inherited will or that connection. You don't need, like, actual bloodline. Sorry, I feel... before we continue, I just want to say, I feel like I'm getting sick. I really do feel like I'm getting sick. Because when I took a shower earlier today, I started feeling weak in the knees and felt like my body was getting chills. I feel like I'm getting sick. And I hate that I might be getting sick. I hope I'm not getting sick. Some people are saying Gloriosa looks like Nami to push the Shaki narrative more, where she wins the man instead of loses like Gloriosa. I mean, yeah. And there's a reason why. Right? There's a reason why. Because they don't want Hancock to lose. They want Hancock to be like Shaki because she won in love. They don't want her to be like Gloriosa because Hancock did not win. Right? But Oda is showcasing how a Kuja Empress can win the person that they are in love with. Gloriosa's method, fawning over Roger, and Roger just completely ignoring her, not caring about her. That is the ending route. The way Shaki approaches it, where she's confident, you know, where she's not, where hasn't at least shown that she's been fawning over Rayleigh, and doesn't ever seem like it, even during, you know, the moments that we do know of her in Shibodi. She's carrying herself strongly. That is the winning route. That's how the Kuja Empress is able to essentially... that's how the Kuja Empress is essentially able to win the love of the person that they are interested in. Hancock is exhibiting the same things as Gloriosa. If Hancock exhibited the same way towards Luffy that Shaki did, then we'll be having a different discussion about Hancock actually having a legitimate shot. But Oda is showcasing to you that it's not the same. And people trying to push the narrative that Gloriosa is more like Nami, and Hancock is more like Shaki, is because they understand and they know deep down that, like, if they do not present this former parallel, they're on the losing end. So they are trying very hard and desperately to not do that. I understand it's frustrating. I understand that's not what they want. But at the same time, you cannot ignore the context that Oda is presenting you, or the writer is presenting you. You know? And don't get me wrong. Like, I'm looking through this not just because I'm a Luffy Nami fan, Luffy Nami shipper. I'm looking at this through in terms of how I depict and view romance, and how romance is written, and how it connects to how other people in the story, in the same story, are viewed romantically, because those are all connected. It showcases to you how Oda views romance. That is important. Because how Oda views romance and how he depicts romance is key to figuring out who he's going to ship characters with. I'll give you an example. Sanji Pudding, right? There were, in the very beginning when Sanji first met Pudding, you know, he was head over heels, you know, he did his gag, so on and so forth. But whether it's because, you know, he felt betrayed by Pudding, he didn't let that betrayal get in the way of just being himself. Right? And in his mind, in his thought process, he thinks that Pudding hates him. But he continued to be himself and then told her that her third eye was beautiful. That hit a nerve inside Pudding, like, oh my god. My entire life, people have said my third eye looked freakish. Looked fucking freaky. But this person was like, no, it's not freaky. He thinks it's beautiful. To her, that just crushed her entire knowledge, her entire thought process of how she views people. And how she views, you know, men or like romantic love. Because to her, someone telling her that third eye is beautiful means more to her than just someone saying, oh, you're beautiful. But she has her bangs covered. You know, her third eye covered by her bangs. That doesn't mean as much as Sanji saying that her third eye is beautiful. But to Sanji, and this is part of the gag that Sanji also gets, whenever someone has a crush on Sanji, Sanji is oblivious to it. He's not aware of it. You see that with the girl in Wano. You see that with the chef with in WCI in the Vinsmokes. You see that whenever Sanji gets feelings returned, he no longer acts like his gag. He's oblivious to the feelings that they have. It's the same way with Pudding. He's oblivious to the feelings that Pudding has for him. Her outburst, he believes that that's her essentially hating him, you know, because of what he did. Right? He was not prepared for her to kiss him. Which is why after, you know, Pudding kissed him, he had hard eyes. Because, oh my god, Pudding actually likes me. And then he reverted back to, like, his gag. But the moment that she took away the memories from him, he reverted back to like, oh, what the hell happened? Wait, Pudding, why are you running away? Did I really mess up again? Do you really hate me like so? That's the point. That's what Oda is trying to do. He's showcasing that Sanji is oblivious when other people have feelings for him. And the moment that they shared as they're baking the cake, the moment that they shared with each other, and how they have the same passions, all that stuff, that is Oda connecting the dots to essentially create a deeper bond between Sanji and Pudding. Right? They have similar interests. Sanji isn't his overbearing gag around her. And part of that is because he's oblivious to her actual feelings for him. And now that Oda has Blackbeard kidnap Pudding, that will lead to more in the future. Which is why Sanji Pudding has like traction to essentially become something more, right? If something like that occurred between like Sanji and Nami, we'll be again having a different discussion. But like I mentioned before, anytime Sanji tries to like have have that romantic flair, those emotional romantic growth moments with Nami, such as in Annie's Lobby when Nami says that she admires that chivalrous side of him. He does a gag. Why? Because Nami doesn't have those feelings for Sanji, so he's trying a little bit too hard, and he overdid it with that gag, right? But look at how he is with Pudding. That's why it's so different. That's why it's vastly different. He's even different with the Wano girl because he's oblivious to her feelings too, and he acts gentleman. He acts nice. He acts kind. Well, not acts kind. He's always been kind, but like he's oblivious and he doesn't go goo goo gaga or like his love gag, because that's part of his gag. That he is oblivious when other people have feelings for him. When he isn't. When the character doesn't have feelings for him, he does the love gag because Oda thinks it's funny to have a one-sided love and likes to make fun of it. It's the same way with the gags that Gloriosa had and the way Hancock views the love with Luffy. Anytime that Hancock tries to get like some sort of emotional growth or emotional bond with Luffy, and there are some that are able to be successful, such as when Hancock gets the key to Ace's handcuffs, right? He hugs her. He's thankful. That is good. That's a good scene. Hancock, isn't overbearing. She does have like the feeling of like, oh my god, he's hugging me, that kind of thing, right? That's good, but it's still there. That high school girl crush, that love, it kind of like subverts to the way Oda is handling their relationship. And I've mentioned before, if Hancock was the person to bring Luffy out of his pain and suffering after losing Ace instead of Jinbei, we'd be having a different discussion, because that clearly showcases that Oda has something for Hancock and Luffy as a relationship. That's what he was planning, but he didn't, and that in part kind of hurts Luffy Hancock, because that was a great moment to have, and then having that moment where they spend time during the 2 years would have been also great, but really forbid her from ever visiting Luffy. That also hurts, right? And then when you look at how Nami responded once she learned about the news, she wanted to be there for Luffy before he broke down. Part of the reason why, and this is also part of the reason why I tried not to discredit Hancock too much, because she doesn't understand love and all that stuff, because she never experienced before. She never had she never been this way. So it's understandable from Hancock's side that she doesn't know how to act. So I get that. But with Nami, she understood what Luffy needed at that moment. He needed someone to be there for him, which Jinbei eventually did. But she wanted to be there for him before he broke down. And why? Because Nami has now... The moment that Nami found out that Ace died in front of him, sacrificed himself to save Luffy, she clicked that to how Bellemere saved her and Nojiko. That's why she understood what Luffy needed at the moment. Hancock thought that Luffy needed only meat and he'll be fine, that all he needed was food. But that's not how you deal with someone who's going through an emotional mental breakdown. Nami understood what she needed to do because she went through the same thing, so she was going to be one of the people who would be able to understand Luffy's pain. And that's where Oda differs in showcasing how much their bonds are different from each other, between Luffy and Nami and Luffy and Hancock. That's why I'm like, it doesn't necessarily work. And at least to how I view romances and shipping. And to go into more about this, and how I talked about how like Shaki represents the cool side of Hancock that she always is, where she's a badass fucking strong female character that could kick ass. Shaki represents that. If the way Hancock fell in love with Luffy was very similar to how Shaki is presenting herself, I mean, that would lead to her success. That would lead to her winning. But The fact that the moment Luffy's in the picture, she turns and loses that coolness and badassery and becomes similar to like what Gloriosa was reacting to Roger. You lose that coolness, that badassery, because Oda all of a sudden just makes that one-sided love into like ha 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 funnies. You know? Like he's making a mockery of like that's not how you should be approaching love. That love in general is about mutual emotional growth between people, and that while you may have feelings for the other, you don't become overbearing, because being overbearing is not something many people love, and Luffy doesn't like it when people are overbearing. Luffy is the type of person that you notice, like when Carrot and the other minks try to guard you Luffy, right? He sometimes gets annoyed, or like when whenever someone stretches his skin because of rubber powers, he gets annoyed. He doesn't like overbearing, at least from my point of view. He doesn't seem like he likes people who are overbearing. And it showcases also that like Hancock and Gloriosa are kind of a little overbearing with their crushes, or like it presents the weaker version of themselves. And I mentioned this before in a comment that I made on Twitter. Whenever you're in a relationship, you want to bring out the best out of your partner. You want to make your partner better than who they are, the better version of themselves, because you help them achieve that better version. When it comes to Luffy Hancock, the fact that Hancock just fawns over Luffy and just loses her badassery and her kick-ass like coolness, that doesn't help her as a character. It doesn't help her growth. And literally nothing from her side really benefits Luffy in some sort of way that represents that either. So it's like, you need that growth. You need that emotional bond, that connection that allows you and your partner to have and become the best of each other. I don't see that with Luffy and Hancock, because it kind of does the opposite of that. You know? Like, I love the cool version of Hancock, the one that she's able to kick ass and like do all of this. And sometimes she gets that whenever Luffy's in danger or Luffy's hurt, she becomes that cool badass character, but she does it with so much anger that it's, like I said, overbearing. It's too much. And that's where you kind of lose me. Being overbearing is not always a good thing. Do you think Hancock will be able to beat the love sickness, and it's possible for her to find a new guy? She always loved Luffy. Okay, so right. Let me get to that. Hancock already beat the love sickness. The actual love sickness that would have killed her, she already beat it. The reason being is that the way to beat the love sickness is by leaving the island and pursuing her love for whoever it is that she fell in love with. Gloriosa did that with Roger, and she was able to beat the love sickness. She's alive. Shaki, while we don't know if she ever concocted the love sickness, maybe they mentioned it in like writing in one of the Kuja pirates. I'm not exactly sure. But like, she didn't succumb to the love sickness. Why? Because she pursued the person that she fell in love with. She didn't die from the love sickness. The same way Gloriosa didn't die, because she pursued her love. The one Kuja Empress that died, Toritoma, the one who became the Kuja Empress after Shaki, died because she did not leave the island. She did not pursue her love, the person that she was in love with. She stayed on the island and succumbed to the disease because she didn't do the same thing Gloriosa or Shaki did. That's why she died. Hancock did that. Hancock legit left the island to help Luffy, to pursue her love in Luffy, and to help him out, and not stay on the island and succumb to the love sickness. She's cured. She's already cured. Like the love sickness is not going to affect her in the way that people think it will. People think that she will die if Luffy doesn't reciprocate her feelings. But that's a fucked up way of writing that relationship. That's essentially saying that Luffy has to fall in love with Hancock. That Luffy has to be with Hancock, because if he doesn't, then Hancock dies. Why would Oda write that? Why would Oda write a tragic story like that? It really makes no sense. If the whole purpose of Luffy is to essentially overcome the tragic endings to a lot of things, a lot of like different themes in One Piece, why would Oda, who values Luffy's view of freedom, just accept Hancock's love despite the fact that he rejected her, just to save Hancock from dying? That's literally going against Luffy's freedom. Especially if the way you make it out to be is that Hancock will give him all the meat in the world and she'll trick him into marrying her. That is, first of all, making Luffy stupid as shit. I get it, Luffy is dumb. Luffy does dumb things. But you're literally making him into a caveman, where he sees food and all of a sudden that's what he goes for. As long as you have food, boom, you have Luffy's heart. Why do you want Luffy to be such a caveman dum-dum? Like, I don't understand that. That devalues Luffy. Like I said, a relationship brings out the best out of both characters. By forcing Luffy to marry Hancock, you're bringing out the worst out of both Luffy and Hancock. I get it. Luffy is going to change the fate of many tragic stories. But here's another thing that people seem to not realize. The tragic love story of the Kuja Empresses already has both a bad and a good ending. And a neutral ending. The neutral ending is Gloriosa. She's still alive. She beat her love sickness. She's still alive. She didn't fall for Roger. And then that's it. That's the neutral ending. Shaki is the good ending. The Kuja Empress beat the fate of the love sickness, or like the threat of the love sickness, and got with the person that she was in love with. The bad ending is Toritoma, who didn't go out and pursue her love interest and died because of it. That is the bad ending. You already have the good ending for the Kuja Empresses. You already have the bad ending for the Kuja Empresses. You already have the neutral one. The idea that changing the fate of the Kuja Empresses with Hancock, it doesn't make any sense, because you already had the good and bad ending represented with the Kuja Empresses. So that's why I don't agree with that. I don't agree with the idea that Luffy has to be with Hancock, otherwise she dies. No. That really just restricts Luffy's freedom of making his own choice. The only way it can work is if Oda decides to actually build their growth, build their emotional bond, and have them spend time with each other, grow together, and bring out the best out of each other. That's when I will be like, okay, I see where Oda's going. This is the end game. But he doesn't do it. He doesn't. Instead, he's presenting it similar to how Gloriosa went after Roger. It's going to end up the neutral ending. Because Hancock already beat the love sickness. Right? She already beat the love sickness just by pursuing Luffy. And pursuing her love. That is her beating the love sickness. More than likely, assuming this is where Oda goes, and he literally parallels the same way that Gloriosa and Hancock both approached their love, Hancock's not going to end up with Luffy. She's going to reach the neutral ending. Will she fall in love with another guy? I don't know. I don't think so. She'll probably wind up similar to Gloriosa. But that's not a bad thing. Like, everyone is thinking like Gloriosa ending is bad. And the only reason why is because old Gloriosa is short, you know, she looks wrinkled and stuff like that, while Shaki looks like a goddess. Gloriosa is like, what? So much more. How old is Gloriosa, actually? Before I say this. How old is Gloriosa? It doesn't even say. Okay, we don't have an age of Gloriosa. Do we know how old Shaki is? 62. Yeah, 62. So she's still young. You know, Shaggy is still young, so of course she would look like that. Hell, fucking, you see how Robin and Nami look like when they're 60s. They still look fucking young. Granted, it is the good ending. But Gloriosa ending up like that isn't a bad ending. Gloriosa likely is much older. But I can't tell you that because I don't know. It doesn't say what her age is. So I could be wrong on that. But like I said, we already have the good, bad, and neutral ending to the Kuja Empress and how they view the love sickness and their pursuit of the person that they love. Gloriosa, the neutral ending, where she's alive, you know, but she's old. Shaki, who the good ending, where she literally went and became together with Rayleigh. Then you have Hancock. Then you have Toritoma, the bad ending, where she didn't pursue her love, and she succumbed to the love sickness. That is the bad ending. So this idea that Hancock has to have the good ending and change the fate of the Kuja Empress doesn't make much sense because we already have the good ending. So it's like, to me, it really doesn't... I don't agree with that. Why do people continue to push the narrative of Luhan if he rejected her? They say at the end he will change his mind. They also say this chapter means the Kuja pirates should be more prominent in the story. People, So, that's essentially the shipping mindset. It's similar... Okay, hold that thought, because I do need to. I need to go use the bathroom as well as I'm gonna take some cold medicine because I feel like I'm getting sick again. So I'm gonna get some cold medicine. I'll be right back. So just give me 1 second. I'll get back to that really shortly. So just give me a sec. Sorry about that. Yeah, I feel like I'm getting sick or something. I don't. Maybe it's a cold. I hope it's just a cold, but like I'm really feeling it. Hopefully the medicine will at least make me feel a little bit better to continue. So yeah, pushing the narrative. If you reject her, they say at the end he would change his mind. The shipping mentality of essentially trying to. It's essentially it's essentially the shipping mindset of I guess analyze would be the best word. To analyze any possible way to take a statement by the author or take a statement from something and turn it around to make it beneficial for them. You know, sometimes shippers, or technically almost any member of any community, whenever they get some sort of information that they don't like, they try very hard to twist the words around or like twist it or like just change it to the point where like it could be beneficial for them. I do it sometimes too. So I'm also guilty of doing the same thing. But it just comes. It's just one of those things where like they hear that he doesn't want to get married, right? He's not interested in getting married to Hancock or just in general, I should say. And it's just trying to find a way that they can view it differently, where it is positive for them, which is that Luffy didn't say that he didn't want to get married to Hancock. That he didn't say that he didn't want to get married to Hancock specifically. He just didn't want to get married in general. As well as that Luffy would change his mind. It's because, you know, they feel that as long as Hancock keeps pushing, as long as Hancock appears more in the story and really showcases how much he loves Luffy, that Luffy will one day agree to get with her. Hi, Smithy. Welcome. Nice One Piece pick. Thank you. It's from the recent chapter. We're having a discussion about the shipping of One Piece. But yeah, it just really comes from trying to find ways to see how this ship can work. So they essentially push a narrative. They essentially push it forward. People will disagree with it. People will agree with it. You know, it depends on the person himself. And I think that's just how shippers and other One Piece or just any fandom readers analyze certain things like that. It's not wrong. It's not like sorry. It's not like they can't do that. It's just if it doesn't happen at the end of the day, it's going to be awkward. You know, it's just going to be a little awkward. Because at the end of the day, the things that you wanted didn't come true. Which, in part, it did happen in this chapter. Very tasteful art. These are the empresses of the all-female island. The leaders. So, if you, based on your reaction, Smithy, you will be turned to stone. But yeah, that's really more of that. You know, it's just more of just the shipper mindset, or any person who follows any sort of fiction mindset. Just turning around statements by the author, or just turning around anything to essentially, you know, try to spin it in a positive. I do it the same way. Such as the things like with Luffy Nami, that there's no romance in the crew, while Oda never specifically actually said no romance amongst the crew members. The actual thing that he says, well, at least the English translation of it, was that I don't think so, which I spun it as, and it's not really spun it, but like it's like the way I made that into a positive is by saying that I don't think so literally means he's not sure yet. It's not a positive no, it's not a positive yes, it just means I'm just not, I just don't know yet. That's what I don't think so means. So you see what I'm getting at? It's the same way any shippers do it. Kind of like how Sanji Nami shippers essentially use the slap that she gave him in WCI as a positive. Or the hug that Luffy and Nami shared in Zou as a positive because she thought of Sanji. You see what I'm getting at? That's usually how it works. It's really, I know, yeah, I would be rock hard, I'm okay going out that way. Fair enough. All you gotta do is just hurt yourself and then think about the pain that you're feeling, and then you'll be fine. Yeah, it happens in any sort of fandom. It's not only shippers, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. Where the fuck was I at with this? I forgot my train of thought. The fuck was I up to? I'd rather the romance between Luffy to be developed slowly and subtle instead of instant. I mean, so would I. For me, my personal view of romances have always been, I mean, one of the best tropes is slow burn. And the type of romances that I enjoy are not the ones that just happen instantly. You know, not the ones that just happen just because one character has a crush on another. By just having a crush and then just having the characters end up together without any sort of emotional growth or bond or like development or like any sort of like writing to it, it's not good writing. You know, it's just not. I don't like that type of writing for romance. And I think that Oda is so good at writing that I do not see him do it as simple as that. You know, like one of my critiques of Naruto Hinata was like there was hardly any screen time between them. You had Hinata who had a crush on Naruto. You had like a few moments here and there, like very, very small moments. You had one during the Chunin exams. Then you had the one with the pain arc. But Kishimoto didn't do anything in between those that really like strengthened their bond to a point until, you know, the Neji stuff. And it's just like, Kishimoto did not write a good romance. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not criticizing Naruto Hinata. I'm, like, as, you know, I was a Naruto Sakura shipper, but, like, I was fine with Naruto Hinata. I did not hate Naruto Hinata. I did not despise Naruto Hinata, or I did not want Naruto Hinata to be a thing. I was fine with Naruto Hinata. But, like, there was nothing there. Or, like, not enough, I should say. Not nothing there. I should say there was not enough. There was not enough time spent with them. And that is at the core part of Kishimoto's problem. Which was he never really developed the side characters, some of the female characters in his story. And that was part of the big issue. Good romance is built through multiple seasons by building a relationship properly. Exactly. Just having like two characters just wind up together after like one season, for example, if you're talking about a TV show, that's just bad writing. You build it up, you know? You build it up to the point that, oh my god, you're anticipating, you're waiting, you're excited for that moment when they finally together, you know, they finally hook up. That's what good romance is. That's what good writing is. Excuse me. You don't just do it at a whim. You don't do it by just having one character have a crush on somebody and then they end up together without any sort of build up, any sort of like emotional bond, growth, connection between the characters. That's not good romance writing. Dragon Ball is a perfect example of it. You're telling me Toriyama, who literally stated, and I actually have the evidence for that, if I can find it. Toriyama stated that he was not good at writing romance. He was not. I have to find it. It's been so long. Did I? No, I didn't. Fuck it. God damn it. I don't know where it is. Maybe I can find it in my media. But Toriyama stated... Oh, here we go. Found it. Perfect. Good old media folder. This is literally an interview Toriyama had one time when someone actually asked him about romantic stories. He literally said... this was a question about Krillin and Android 18. Krillin and Android 18 lived with Maron-chan at Kalme House. I want to hear the story about how they came to have such a wonderful relationship. His response was, sorry, I'm really bad when it comes to romantic stories like this, so I can't give you a straight answer. But I think that probably number 18 used to be a delinquent, found Krillin's seriousness and straightforwardness refreshing, and somehow or other she ended up falling for him. What? What? That's it? And this is represented in a lot of the romances that Toriyama did in Dragon Ball. Look at Goku and Chi-Chi, right? Chi-Chi had a crush on Goku. Great. There was no progression with their relationship. The only way she was able to really get with Goku is by telling him that marriage is food. That is like... What the fuck? Like, what? And people think that Luffy being the same... Luffy literally being the same person as Goku, they think, oh, he's going to be exactly the same way. All Hancock has to do is just give him meat, and he will accept, you know, her love. No, bro. That's just terrible writing. That is terrible writing. What the fuck? Like, holy shit. Even Vegeta and Bulma. Literally, the first time we actually see, like, any sort of, like... interest from Bulma about Vegeta was her looking at his ass and biting her bottom lip. Like, she literally looked at his ass, bit her lip, and like, those are some cheeks. And I'm just like, oh my fucking god. Oh my god. And then they ended up together in the near future. That kind of romance just fucking irks me so much. Because there's no development, no nothing. Absolutely nothing. There's absolutely nothing there. There's no writing, there's no storytelling, there's no... It's just Toriyama like, okay, I want them to be together, so this is how I'm gonna do it. Do one thing and then they're married. And I'm like, this is what people want Oda to do. This is legit what people want Oda to write relationships as. And I'm like, oh my fucking god. Oda is so much better at writing relationships than Toriyama ever was. He is so much better at writing relationships than Kishimoto did. And he shows you just how good he is by writing the romances he has done in the story. Kumagini, Oden Toki, fucking Harold and Ida. Like, come on. He put so much more, he put a hell of a lot more effort than Toriyama ever did in romances. People so badly want to connect Oda to Toriyama in terms of writing, and it's just like, why are you disrespecting Oda's writing like that? Like, don't get me wrong, Oda had so much respect for Toriyama. I'm not saying that, like, Oda and Toriyama should hate each other. What I'm saying is that Oda's writing is much more improved, much better than Toriyama's writing. Who there wasn't really much writing in Dragon Ball Z, at least. In Dragon Ball there was some writing, you know. In what was the fucking Doctor Slump? There was some writing, but it was mostly. But what Toriyama was good at was getting to specific hype events. And that's what people cling to. That's what people love, the hype moments. He sprinkled in some good storytelling here and there, but he was so good at creating that hype around certain things. While Oda, how he does it is that he meticulously plans the arcs in a way that he allows the story to flow well. He is not Toriyama. And that is not an insult. It is not. I know my Naruto Hinata need help. The pain arc was so heartbreaking he didn't check on here. Look, I thought the pain arc was fucking the best arc from Naruto. But not even that could have fucking... Not even that helped the Naruto Hinata ship that well because of what came after. Like I said, context before, during, and after the event is always important. Because in my opinion, I consider romance to be a part of the story, and I want it to look natural, not something that suddenly happens. It just seems disingenuous to me. Otherwise, and Oda can do better. Well, yeah, it just doesn't work. And you want to know why that is? Because humans do not fall in love that way. Humans do not end up together that way. I know One Piece is a fantasy story that is different from our world, but human connections, human interests, human relationships, they are always the same. And you want to know why? Because that's how we know. Because that's what we know. That's what we learn growing up and learning about how relationships work, how bonds work, and people put that into their story because that's literally how we humans are. I get it, it's a fantasy story, but like, fantasy stories, the way fantasy stories really can connect hard with people, because let's face it, it's exaggerated. You know, fantasy stories are so exaggerated, you can't really connect them to people. The way you connect them to people is by bringing humanity and real life into the aspects of not only the characters, but the stories you tell. So if a character ends up with somebody without any build-up, with just the idea of just a crush, one character has a crush on another, it doesn't work that way because you need to build that relationship. I always tell people whenever they talk about like how this will work, I want them to literally talk to anyone that they know who's in a relationship, who's been married, who is married, like their parents, just anybody, just freaking anybody who fell in love and is in love. Ask them. Just ask them what they think about the other person. And I guarantee you, if they are truly in love and, you know, it's not like a ruined relationship of sort, they will always say that she brings, whoever their partner brings out the best out of them. They're their best friend. They know me. And a bunch of other things. And the reason why that is important, the reason why you should know that is because that's how relationships work. That's how love works. You could have an entire love around, you know, people's how people look, how people are attracted. You can have love around sex, you know. But is that really love? Is that really the relationship you want? Or do you want it to be with somebody that you want to spend the rest of your life with? The person that you love, who knows you best, who is your closest, you know, friend, who knows you better than anybody. That's what you want. So trying to just force a relationship without any of that, to me, is terrible writing. Because you fail to realize just what makes a relationship and what makes someone in love. The arc was fine, but watch her get stabbed and then check on her after the fight is why I meant this bad. Oh well. Like I said, Kishimoto did not know how to write romance, and he sometimes fucking he always never really built the side characters up properly, And he always, for some reason, always turned his attention to the Uchihas, and it just, he dick rode the Uchiha clan to the ground, man. Instead of like focusing on the side characters, you know. Right. But like I said, in this chapter, we see like these two former empresses be parallels to Hancock in two different ways. And in my personal opinion, the way Hancock treats her love for Luffy is similar to Gloriosa. And that will lead her to a neutral ending. Because the way that a Kuja Empress was able to succeed in love is the way Shaki approached it. Which was not be overbearing. Not go, you know, be like goo goo gaga over the person that they love. But just be confident, a strong woman, a strong character who walk with confidence, which Hancock does exhibit. But she doesn't go goo goo gaga over the person she loves. Instead, they get mutual respect, which you see when Shaki winks at Rayleigh. The way she talks to Rayleigh. That is the reason why Shaki fell in love with Rayleigh. Because he did not go goo goo gaga over her. The way he approached her was like a mutual respect for each other. And that is important. The mutual respect is important because that also showcases how Oda views a proper romance. The mutual respect for one another. He literally stated several times that he believes that the one-sided love is the way he likes to approach romantic comedy. A form of romance that he wants to make gags out of because he doesn't view that as being realistic. And also, it also prevents, you know, both fans of each character from, you know, attacking him. But he doesn't have the confidence. He literally says it that he doesn't have the confidence. So that's why he does one-sided love, unrequited love. And he likes that because it allows him to create gags. Because One Piece, again, is a comedy. It's serious. There's some serious themes involved, but it's still a comedy. You know? Anytime someone complains about, like, Luffy ruining the tension, it's because Oda is showcasing his comedy and what he thinks is funny. But Roger going goo goo gaga over Shaki. Guess what? Roger didn't get with Shaki. Why? Because Roger first wanted to steal Shaki away from the Kuja Pirates, which was a fucking weird thing. I don't know why Roger was like that. But he was attracted to her. He was attracted to this beautiful character. And Shaki did not care for him. Because to her, it looked like that didn't show her any respect. How Rayleigh approached her, where he didn't go goo goo gaga. Where they are able to talk to one another with mutual respect. That's why she fell in love with Rayleigh. And it's telling. It's literally Oda telling you just how he views a proper and good romance. It's not the goo goo gaga and having a crush. It's the mutual respect the characters have for each other. Whew, okay. Loony, I would definitely like to see you play the EC event on stream if you want to. I don't know if I'll be able to. Simply just because EC just... It's come to the point where, like, I don't pay attention to what EC does anymore. I just do the events and just skip the story. I just look up what the story is on, like, YouTube and stuff like that. I have, like, 5 gacha games or, like, 4 gacha games I play. I don't have time to sit down on one of them. I just try very much to just do my dailies and just fucking stop playing it. It's just too much. But I do watch it. I do see what people say about it. And just to get an understanding of, like, what all the hubba bubba drama is all about in the Final Fantasy VII community, because goddamn it, there's always is. Fucking hell, can't even do one little thing without one side going fucking ape shit about some random bullshit, you know. But I'll take a look at the EC event and see, and I'll let you know my thoughts. I just want Luffy to have a mutual relationship, not one side. I want to get to know each character and get invested in both of them and see them grow as if they fall in love. It's more rewarding. Yeah, I agree with you. That's why I just don't agree with how Luffy Hancock fans are providing evidence for their ship. I don't agree with them. I don't agree with their takes. The one take I do agree with them, or at least like from that they make, is that is the way that Luffy kind of changes Hancock in terms of how she views other people. Because if you remember, the way she viewed other people, like Margaret and stuff like that, you know, if they crossed her or anything like that, she would like turn them to stone. You know, as a it's a defense mechanism because she doesn't want to be betrayed, because she has been betrayed her entire life when she was when she was captured by the Celestial Dragons. She needed to be strong for her people, so that, you know, because Margaret disobeyed, she couldn't just like forgive them because that would show weakness. And Luffy essentially is slowly showing her that she doesn't have to be that way, that she can be open, and she doesn't have to feel like she has to carry this burden, that she has to feel this way where she has to be strong for her people, where she can be herself. And that is the one observation and take from Luffy Hancock fans that I agree with. But everything else that they try, you know, to come up with, just, it doesn't fly. It's just not good. Like, when I reacted to that one guy, O'Hara the Fox, I think it was, his shipping video, and when he went to Luffy Hancock, and he gave, like, the fucking meat excuse. I'm like, I literally almost blew a gasket, because I'm like, I've seen better fucking takes from Luffy Hancock fans that are so much better than this. Why can't you just say one of those things? Like, I just gave you a good one. I don't like Luffy Hancock. I don't ship it, but I at least gave you a good reason for their ship, a good piece of evidence for their ship. But this whole thing about Luffy being dumbed down, that Luffy will accept Hancock's marriage and all that stuff, like, those are so fucking lowball, so fucking really weak ass arguments for the ship. Like, that, it doesn't work that way, man. Like, I could literally probably make a better Luffy Hancock video and provide actual evidence for Luffy Hancock that isn't and has nothing to do with Hancock dumbing Luffy down. I could probably do that. And why is that? Because I understand how romance works in fiction. I understand how it works. I understand how it works in between human relationships. And it's also how you understand it from the view of the author, and how he explores the romance genre through other characters as well. That is all important. Did you watch Bleach? If so, what did you think of the romance? It was not good. I was a Ichigo Orihime shipper, but like I said, the way Kubo presented the romance was literally having Orihime have a crush on Ichigo. I will say this though, the start of it wasn't great, with just having it being a crush, but Kubo actually did try very hard to grow a bond between the two characters, to the point where, like, it actually started to become better as the series went on. But Renji Rukia, there are moments that they have, but like it wasn't strong. It wasn't written well enough. In terms of Ichigo and Rukia, I never got that vibe of romance. To me, Ichigo Rukia had that best friend vibe that would not go past being best friends. You know, it never presented that way. Even when I watched the anime and there was a lot more Ichigo Rukia hints in the anime, it still never made me switch sides. It still never made me into an Ichigo Rukia shipper. Because the reason why, and there are moments where Ichigo and Rukia do develop and grow together in terms of like their bond. There was a point where Kubo completely just ignored that and focused more on the relationship between Ichigo and Orihime, which was the Arrancar arc. You know, or it was the build up to the Arrancar arc, then the Arrancar arc, and then what happened. And you saw the growth and the writing improve with the romance between Ichigo and Orihime as it expanded. It didn't do so much with Ichigo and Rukia. You had like moments here and there, but it never went past. It never peaked over that line that you need in order to really see that romance blossom into something like romance. It's the same way how I feel about It's the same way how I felt about the Cloud and Aerith, really. Cloud and Aerith and Cloud and Tifa. With the writing between Cloud and Aerith never really reached that point where like it would lead to romantic. Part of it was because of what happens, but it really, I never got that romantic vibe, especially from Cloud. I never got it from Cloud. There were moments, and Cloud and Aerith definitely brought out like different sides of each other, but there was not enough to make me switch sides. There was not enough to make me see it as anything different than Cloud and Tifa ending up together instead of Cloud and Aerith. And then when Crisis Core came out and all that stuff, and the way they were going about Final Fantasy VII Remake Project, it just, to me, I just don't see it becoming canon anymore. I watched Naruto, and I think the time we sacrificed Naruto to bring him back was very disingenuous to me and let the foul taste in my mouth. Oh yeah, no, it was bullshit. It was complete fucking bullshit. It was literally fucking. It was Kishimoto trying something, trying some weird thing, and I don't know why. I don't know what the angle was if he was trying to make Naruto Sakura a thing. How would Ripley and Gabon make a baby? Well, there's a few ways. I would probably say sperm bank. That would be my guess. Where essentially Gabon gave a sperm to somewhere, and then Ripley used it as a and Ripley then had a doctor, form it with the egg and stuff like that, and then that's how it happened. That would logically be the only way. The only other way is really fucking weird and creepy, and I really don't want to think about it. But yeah, like, this chapter, One Piece chapter 1156, showcased more of essentially what I already figured out in terms of how Oda writes romances, and it doesn't really disprove anything that I always thought about, like the bond, or like the writing of Hancock's romance or Hancock's love for Luffy. It never really changed much. It actually more so aligned with what I already thought. And it basically confirmed to me that, one, Gloriosa did have a crush on Roger, and she acted the same way. So, the fact that she did not get with Roger, and that Roger got with somebody else, showcases that, like, Oda is essentially going to do the same thing with Hancock. Because if it was going to succeed, Hancock, the way Hancock would approach love would have been the same way Shaki did. But she didn't. She's approaching it the same way Gloriosa did, and if Gloriosa has anything to say about it, it likely will not end the same way. Do you think Roger had a Sanji moment with Shaki? What do you mean, like Goo Goo Gaga? Like going love mode? What do you mean by Roger had a Sanji moment? Sanji is Gabon? I mean, yeah. That is correct. That is the parallel that Oda's making, especially with the color spread. Like the Sanji gag, you already saw it in the chapter. It's not as extreme as Sanji, but Roger showcased the hard eyes, the full-blown attraction to Shaki, and just essentially just was head over heels for her and wanted her. He showcased the things that Sanji had, the way Sanji would have responded, except not to the extent Sanji would have. Sanji would have done it a little bit more severe. Hey Loony, the new letter for One Piece Treasure Cruise dropped, crazy stuff. Yeah, I saw it on when I was browsing through something. I have to look at it. I have to look at the full thing, but I saw like it talking about how like Limit Break, full blown level 5 Limit Break recruits would not be available in polls, which is good, great. But there's probably more that I need to see what it is. Oh my god. Why do you think he chose Rouge over Gloriosa? Well, I can't answer that simply just because we don't know much about Rouge. The only thing we really know about Rouge is that she has like this grit and determination and this strength to be able to do what she did to save Ace's life. So she's definitely a strong female character. As to why he didn't choose Gloriosa, like I said, she was overbearing. He was just not interested. He did not care. He was not interested in Gloriosa, and that's really it. People need to understand, like, people's feelings matter. Like, the guy's feelings matter. Why? I don't understand this idea that, like, the guy has to be with the girl that has a crush on him. Like, no. What? The guy's feeling matters just as much as the female characters. Forcing them to love somebody, even though they don't want to get with them or want to marry them, that's wrong. Especially with characters like Roger and Luffy, who literally talk about being free and doing whatever they want. For telling them that they have to marry Hancock or Gloriosa just because they have a crush on them, that goes against their freedom. You're essentially saying that they have to, that they're being forced. You need to build a connection, man. You need to have mutual respect. Which is why Shaki rarely worked. Because they had mutual respect for each other. With the way episodes are released every 2 episodes, I guess we could see Loki in probably 4 years. We just seen Kuma punch, what's his face, right? Saturn. We'll probably see no, we won't see Loki in 4 years. We will see Loki sometime next year. Probably fall of next year. Yeah, we definitely will not see Loki in 4 years. No, that's just way too long. We'll definitely see Loki in next year. The anime does not take as many breaks as the manga does, but we'll definitely see Loki next year. Do you think Loki will ever join the crew? No. I do not think Loki will join the crew. If we forget about the semantics about fucking Loki not fitting on the fucking Thousand Sunny, or like Frankie inventing something where Loki could like fucking drift alongside the fucking Sunny go. It just, Loki is that type of character to me that doesn't want to be, that wants to be his own individual and wants to rule himself and not be under anybody. I just don't see Loki joining. of course, I could be wrong and that Oda somehow figures it out. To me, I think what happens is that Loki becomes the next king of Elbaf. Well, what happened is that Loki arrives, he saves everybody, people see him a new light, and they ask him to, and then he essentially, like, as payment for saving them, because, you know, Loki's still fucking pissed off at them, he'll probably say something like, oh, make me your new king. That's probably what will happen. In my personal opinion. I just do not see Loki joining the crew. It just, like, logistically, it would make no sense. And I know people talk about, or like compare it to, similar to, what's that guy's name from Blackbeard's crew? The one that's like an entire island or a mountain. Right? But that's different. Because that guy can literally transform back into his human form. Loki can't do that. Loki's fucking tall no matter what. You can't use the fucking owl because the owl essentially does not work on non-living things. His powers doesn't work on living things, as to say. So there's no way you could shrink Loki. Honestly, I just do not see that happening. It's just that there's so many things that it just doesn't really, like, allow Loki to be a member of the crew. Do I think he could be a member of the Alliance? Yes, but Loki will not see it as being a member of the Alliance. Loki will see it as if he's doing things by himself. Or like, this is his choice. He's not following Luffy. He's doing this because he wants to, or because he wants to be seen as, you know, a hero or a conqueror or whatever. Loki will make his own choices. Because that's just who he is. That's what he prefers. And the fact that Loki talks about how, like, the people of Elbaf never showed him respect, or like they never really cared for him, you know, despite the fact that that's not true at all, because Harold did try to care for him. He tried to help Loki, just that because of the fucking elders and bullshit diplomacy, he couldn't. So it just makes him out to be like a shitfuck father. Which, you know, you could have easily fucking be like, fuck you, elders, but like, you know. He respected Harold as a king, and he wanted to rule over people like a king. Granted, it wasn't the virtuous way, but it's all leading up to the people of Elbaf forgiving Loki, because the whole thing with Loki is that people of Elbaf view him as a curse. People of Elbaf view him as like this thing that just constantly brings disaster to Elbaf. But this will be the moment where Loki will go and save the people of Elbaf, save the children. The children will start liking Loki. And if the children start liking Loki, the other people of Elbaf will be happy because they saved he saved their children and stuff. That will give Loki the recognition and the kindness he always seeked. He'll be still tsundere and be a little stubborn about it, but eventually people will grow and learn to accept him. And that's where Oda is leading this into. You can't, like, Loki just joining the crew doesn't solve the problem of how Elbaf always viewed him. And how the perception that the people of Elbaf has to view him, it needs to change. And Loki joining Luffy's crew doesn't do that. So I just don't see it happening. Because of how, you know, Loki's story is playing about how he's viewed as like this curse. The people of Elbaf are going to start learning to respect Loki. And learn from the mistakes. Because at the end of the day, that's what Oda is planning on. That's how you write the story of a cursed figure or someone who is seen as bad luck, by allowing them to do something that makes people's view of them change. People were theorizing Blackbeard is Rock's son. What do you think? No, Blackbeard is Rock's son. Blackbeard is Rock's son. That's confirmed. When Rox was introduced in, like, what was it, 2 chapters ago? He was introduced as the father of Blackbeard. The real question is is Rox the father of Buggy? That's the real question we should be asking. Because I saw a lot of people wondering about that. You know? This week's chapter really was something, wasn't it, in terms of shipping wise? What time is it? 1:30 a.m. Holy shit. Alright, I think I'll end it here. I talked about everything that I wanted to talk about in terms of shipping wise. We talked more about everything else that happened in the chapter. Overall, very good chapter. Fucking love Rox. Rox is a fucking amazing villain. He has so much fucking aura. He's fucking great. I like seeing more of like this romance stuff from Oda. I hope he does more. He just needs the confidence for it. But overall, I thought this chapter was great. It definitely perked up a lot of shippers out there today, this week. Sadly, we have to wait 2 more weeks to see more, because there is a Shonen Jump break next week's. I will say though, the chapter might leak early because usually with breaks there usually is an early leak. But we'll see next chapter if we see anything more like maybe Roger and Rouge, maybe more of like Shaki and Rayleigh. We will see. But overall, I like this chapter. I like discussing it, and we'll see more. I like talking about shipping stuff, so this was a lot of fun. God Knights are the real deal? Yes. Although, I will say I hope the God's Knights actually put up a fight against Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji. I really hope they don't just like one-shot them or something like that, because then I'll be a little disappointed. I want them to actually put up a fight. So we'll see, but the God Knights are a threat, and we'll see if Oda does anything with it. Alright, but thank you to everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Have a wonderful rest of your night. I'll see you guys next time. Hopefully, the next time a One Piece chapter comes out, we could talk more, especially when it concerns shipping.